My entitled roommate kept snoring and refused to address the issue, keeping me up all hours of the night and pretty much ruining my sleep schedule. So I decided to get some revenge by recording my roommate while she was snoring and then playing it right back to her when she was trying to get some sleep, just to give her a taste of her own medicine. Here's how it all went down. To start things out, I work and live on a cruise ship, and depending on the route we dock, I'm there every 2 to 4 days. I have one roommate and we have bunk beds with me on the top one. Now, as a performer, we get to pick our own roommates, but the thing is, my roommate never told me that she snored, and she didn't tell me that she was super loud about snoring as well either. I tried earplugs, but those definitely didn't work, and I have big over-the-ear headphones and was playing music, and even then I could still hear her. I can even hear her over the ship docking, and our room is near the anchor, so it is really loud. Her snoring is not only loud, it's also concerning, because she chokes in her sleep as well. The first time I heard it, I almost fell out of my bunk to rush down and check on her, thinking that she was having some kind of medical emergency. I talked to her to see if we could come up with some kind of solution, and she basically just shot me down because she thought since she was sleeping fine, it wasn't a big deal. Also, it's important to note that it's really hard to change roommates unless something major happens, and snoring isn't considered one of those things, despite me voicing my lack of sleep. Now, I did my best to live with it, but I was fed up when I got done with a long workday, and I had to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and all this snoring only allowed me 2 hours of sleep. So I decided to get some petty revenge by recording her. The next day when I was going to the room for a break, she was there and said she was gonna take a nap. So I was like, okay. And as she laid down, I started playing her snoring. She immediately shot up and looked at me like I was insane, when all I did was stare at her, and she asked me to turn it off. But I just said to her, well, this is you snoring, and you said it's not a big deal, so why should I? Well, when I said that, she got really mad at me. She said some very choice words towards me, and then she leaves the room. So for about 3 days, whenever she tried to rest, I played her own snoring right back to her. Finally, I got called in for a meeting with our manager because my roommate was really mad at me. I explained my side of the story because my roommate failed to mention that she refused to address her snoring and made it seem like I was just playing loud noises just for the heck of it. My roommate's angry that the manager didn't fully take her side on things and even told her that she was being difficult by not trying to address her snoring and brushing off my need for sleep. But thankfully, we ended up getting moved with new roommates though, which definitely solved a lot of these problems. Okay, I love this so much because, my god, the fact that the roommate refused to do anything about this when they're the one making the noise, like that is seriously so annoying because this is literally their problem. They're the reason the original poster can't get any sleep, and yet they still choose to not do anything about it. What a terrible roommate, are you kidding me right now? So I love the fact that you recorded them and played that right back for them to hear, because that really put them in their place and definitely moved things along when it comes to getting a better roommate than that. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not showing up to my shift at work after I literally told them I couldn't come on a certain day? Because after my manager gave me the runaround and just blatantly disrespected me, I decided that it wasn't worth continuing working there anymore, and I just simply left without saying anything. And I'm not sure if this was a mistake or not, because right now I think I've pissed off a lot of people. Here's how I did it. Okay, to start this out, I'm a 21-year-old male, and I want to preface by saying that I've been working at this fast food restaurant for a few months now, but I have been with a different corporation for about 4 years. Recently, I had the opportunity to get hired at a new company completely different from fast food, and honestly, I jumped at it, and I'm currently working there full time. But I decided I would put in my 2 weeks at my fast food job, to which my general manager asked to revisit the conversation a week later to see if I still wanted to leave. For a bit of context, I was told by another manager that in 3 years of her being at that store, it has never been fully staffed. So my general manager asking me to revisit the conversation, I'm assuming, was her not wanting me to leave. Fast forward to that week, and I told her that I could stay, but only if it conformed to my now primary job schedule. And when I said that, she agreed. We then came to a compromise that I would work from Friday to Sunday. I then found out that my primary job has specific trainings that occur over the weekends. On October 17th, I messaged my general manager asking her if she could take me off of only Sundays so that I could attend these trainings, to which she then just left me on red. I then resent another text message this Wednesday, letting her know that I could not keep coming in on Sundays, and she once again just did not respond, and this time left me undelivered. Well, she responded today saying that she had accommodated me various times and could not take me off of Sundays. And I really think this is unfair, since I decided to help her out considering the situation that I'm in, putting her needs over my other work schedule, which I realize I shouldn't have done if I want to keep my primary job. So I responded respectfully as I understand her position, and I told her that I unfortunately could not and would not be showing up on Sunday. Well, she decided to respond by saying, well, unfortunately, when will be your last day? Well, I showed this to some of my coworkers and friends, and all of them of them said that that was a disrespectful message to send as somebody in her position, and that I should just quit. So I left her on red, I blocked her number, and I left the work group chat. I did not show up to my closing shift tonight, and obviously I don't plan on returning. Now, where I may be the jerk is that I did not inform her that I would not be showing up, and now I have over 13 missed calls and messages from managers asking where I'm at, alongside a short-staffed closing team. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because I really just don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I do not think you're the jerk. I think your manager was being super manipulative, and she was obviously waiting until the last second to be like, well, no, you can't take Sundays off. And it's like, holy crap, what is wrong with this lady? You literally are doing her a favor. You don't even need to be doing this in the first place. And she's really gonna sit there and try and be like, oh, well, that just doesn't work for me. Like, dude, none of this works for me either. I don't even have to work here anymore. And you better believe she already saw that message earlier and decided, oh yeah, I'm just not gonna say anything until the last second. Putting you in a weird position and basically putting it where it's like, oh, okay, you're now guilt tripping me. Gotcha. That's exactly what's going on here. Good to know. So I don't know. For me, I probably would have been like, okay, this isn't gonna work for me, so I quit. I don't think I would have like gone no show, no call or anything like that and just been like, all right, see ya. I'm just not gonna work with you. Because that does seem a bit cold in my opinion, even though I think you would be justified. But with all things considered, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think your manager was absolutely out of line. My girlfriend has blocked me on every single device and social media site just so she can go on a trip with her friends to celebrate her ex-boyfriend's birthday. But now, after explaining to her that we would be done if she did this, I'm now left feeling completely stunned and honestly not sure what to do, because this is so unexpected that I'm seriously still in shock. Here's how it happened. Okay, so I started dating my girlfriend about 3 months ago, and shortly after we started dating, I had to move to another city for work. So we've been in a long-distance relationship ever since then. Before dating me, she was in a 4-year relationship with her ex-boyfriend. She told me that she ended things with him because she was attracted to me, and she even told me that she never found her ex physically attractive. However, she has admitted that she still hasn't fully moved on from him, and that it will take some time. I told her that I'd give her space and try to be understanding, but lately I've started questioning if I'm doing the right thing or just overreacting. She's a very social person and has a big friend group, while I have a small circle of close friends that I completely trust. The issue is that her close friend group includes her ex-boyfriend. She still hangs out with them, and honestly, it makes me uncomfortable. I've told her multiple times that she can hang out with other friends, but why keep including her ex-boyfriend? She always says to me that it just happens by chance and that her friends call him when she calls them. In the last 2 months, they've gone out to 4 movies, 1 overnight beach outing, and several dinners together. What hurts the most is that there's this one place I'd always wanted to visit with her, and she didn't want to go when I asked her, but now she's going there with her friend group, which also includes her ex-boyfriend. Yesterday we fought because today is her ex's birthday, and she's going on a trip to that same place. I've told her several times that I'm not comfortable with this, especially since even her ex was insisting that she come because it was his birthday and everyone would miss her, and despite everything, she agreed to go. But last night, I told her that if she goes, then we're done. She then apologized and said that she would plead with me later, but couldn't cancel because this would be the last time that she would get to spend a day like this with all of her friends. Well, fast forward to this morning and she blocked me. She's not answering my calls or my messages, and I've called her over 50 times, but she's left me on delivered on WhatsApp and hasn't responded at all. I know she's going to come back and apologize to me about everything, and this is something that's happened multiple times, but honestly, this time just doesn't feel the same. So now I'm just sitting here completely lost. What am I supposed to say in this situation? Is it normal or okay for something like this to happen in a relationship? Because at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, it kind of seems like your girlfriend has 2 boyfriends at this point. One of them is you, and the other one is her ex-boyfriend. Like, holy crap, based on what you described, it kind of seems like she's going behind your back and possibly cheating on you. Because if she really doesn't like her ex that much and she's only attracted to you, then why is she still going out with him all the time? Not to mention the fact that she blocked you. Like, she knew for a fact that what she was doing was wrong and that she was jeopardizing her relationship with you, which in essence is putting you in a weird spot because you're like, look, I cannot date you if you're going to be acting like this. So for me, if I had a girlfriend who did this, who blocked me on everything and still decided to go off on some trip with her ex-boyfriend, like that would be the final straw, and I would absolutely think about moving on. Because from the sounds of it, she does not take this relationship seriously, and she's only interested in getting back with her ex and not stay with you. And that really sucks. Like, you don't deserve that. Am I the jerk for calling out my neighbor, as she is neglectful and keeps allowing her kids to play on our property, putting me and the rest of my family in a weird situation because right now we just don't know what to do? Here's what's going on. For a bit of context, I've been living in my home for close to 18 years. I'm a 21-year-old female, and my neighbors moved in about 14 years ago, and it was at the beginning peaceful between us. However, about 8 years ago, my family and I noticed a strange plant growing in the backyard when changing out the screen windows for storm windows that fall. basil. Naturally, my family called the police because we thought it was the illegal lettuce, if you know what I mean, and he was arrested for it and was released about a month later. Ever since then, it's been downhill with conflict between him and my father, who was only trying to protect his daughters from an illegal substance at the time. Now, onto the property issue. About 2 years ago, the empty lot beside my house was up for sale, and my landlord purchased it and attached it to my property, with strict rules that no other kids except my sisters and I could play there. Reason being is that he didn't want the neighborhood kids causing any damage to the home or even end up getting injured on the property. Naturally, he also didn't want us or himself to be held responsible for any injuries that might be acquired. For the last couple of years, my next door neighbor let their kids play on our property, and every time getting told by either me or my father to stay off of our property, even going to the point of involving the landlord or even the city police on numerous occasions. Well, yesterday it was the same as always. The kids were playing on our property, my father this time asking them to get off of our property, and then the kids saying that they didn't know they couldn't be there. And then these kids started mouthing off at us when we tell them that they've been told about this every year since the lot became ours. Their mother then pipes in with her own choice words, and the kids start punting their football into our house. Now, I'm trying to work in my studio at this time, and I start getting irritated with the punting and with them running their mouths. So I head out and, rather calmly, ask to speak with their mother about the situation and try to convince them to see it from the landlord's perspective. The discussion was brief, and when I thought she had understood, she starts running her mouth, claiming that the kids won't get hurt or damage the property. And that's when I start needing to fight the urge to cuss her out. I then tell her off about the numerous times the kids have kicked or thrown a ball against the house, and explain that kids will be kids and that they're prone to injury, having been a very clumsy and injury-prone kid myself. Well, she continues to argue, and this is where I let her have it. I call her out for not enforcing the strict instructions that even the police have backed us up on, and instead just sitting on her porch smoking the evil lettuce, if you know what I mean, or fighting with her husband, which can be heard throughout the entire neighborhood, instead of enforcing a simple rule to stay off of our property. So am I the jerk here for calling her out? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I see exactly where your family's coming from because this does seem incredibly obnoxious, but if this really is that much of an issue, if the landlord doesn't like the fact that they're on this other property and the police are like, dude, you've got to stay off of it, then why doesn't the landlord just put up a fence? Like, what's going on here? Why are you somehow responsible for monitoring this property that clearly absolutely has nothing to do with you? It's not yours, you don't own it. It's the landlord, because I'm assuming you guys rent. Like, that's kind of what it sounds like. So honestly, this is not yours to police. And I don't know, maybe I've just had some really bad landlords in the past, but there's no way on earth I would ever take the perspective of a landlord in my life. I don't know, that's just my perspective. But I think overall, I don't think you're really the jerk for saying, hey, can you get lost? But if it really is that much of an issue, the landlord should step up and build a fence, because you are absolutely not responsible for anything that happens on that property. And I just don't think there's any reason to be so strict about it, especially since it's not your property to begin with. Today, I got some revenge on a company that literally gave me a faulty product, as I stuffed their garbage into my back closet of my business so that it would depreciate in value over time, as I literally refused to sell it, putting them in their place because, trust me, they absolutely deserve it. Here's what happened. To start things out, I own a tiny business, and I recently switched to a new point of sale system, and to be completely honest, it is a piece of crap. I should have looked up reviews on Reddit or something, because the website reviews are all positive, but apparently we hate it here. Transactions take about 20 seconds longer with all the extra buttons staff have to press. There are settings that are literally not even changeable, and there's a website that likes to crash when I'm making inputs, which by the way is after I make the inputs, requiring me to start all over multiple times. I also experienced a discrepancy in online ordering and lost hundreds of dollars in a single day, but like I kind of need that as it is raise season for my lovely team. So I called the owner and I demanded that he get to me as soon as possible, which he did, but he literally couldn't fix the problem. 2 hours into our meeting, he brings me a new printer and tells me that mine is broken, even though it isn't. And at this point, I call bullcrap. I then had a eureka moment and was able to fix the problem myself, all while he's on the phone with tech support for about 40 minutes. But it was a fix that the system didn't take into account. Like, I literally found a workaround and I was the one that taught him, and he was thankful and jokingly said that I should be working for him. So I straight up asked to get out of my contract. I said this is underperforming and they already negotiated 10% of the savings I expected in the swap. I also also mentioned that I lost confidence in his leadership since I had to educate him on his own product. But even with all that in mind, he still said no. I then asked him why I was having so many issues, and he says it's because no other business owners in the area care this much. According to him, they have less optimized menus, which again is just complete bullcrap. So tomorrow, I'm throwing the equipment in a closet. I pay a $70 rental fee, and they gave me approximately $11,000 in useless products. They primarily depend on processing fees, so now you get none of that. Enjoy my $1,600 in rental fees over 2 years, while your spanking new Tech Bro equipment depreciates and rots in my office until it's obsolete. Because trust me, I am not the person that you want to mess with. Yeah, these people suck. They literally gave you a faulty product and tried to be like, no, we're not going to let you out of your contract. So good for you for throwing their products in the closet and being like, okay, it's going to sit there and we're never going to sell anything. Enjoy your rental fee, but I'm absolutely not going to waste my time selling anything you give me. Because if they're going to act like this, then absolutely you can return the favor. Which from the sounds of it, it seems like they definitely need a reality check. My boyfriend made a huge scene at the restaurant, all because this restaurant overcharged us by about $10, and I absolutely missed it. Because my boyfriend's reaction was absolutely over the top and made me feel like garbage. And at this point, I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I've been with my boyfriend for over a year now, and things have been rocky between us, but we somehow always made it work. Today, he said he would take the both of us to a new breakfast place, and he also said that he would pay, since he has like this 50% coupon on all the food in the restaurant. Everything went great, and since he had cash and wanted to leave a tip, I went to the counter to pay with a card, with my boyfriend saying that he would give me cash later on. I had a nice conversation with a waitress, and when she asked if I wanted a copy of the bill, I got distracted and said there was no need. I would just look at my account. We then left and I stood by the door, and when he asked me the amount, it turned out that the girl accidentally put $10 more on the bill. Well, my boyfriend got super angry. He started cursing and spent like 10 minutes counting it again on his phone and told me to go back for the bill. I really pleaded that there was no need and that I'll just cover that money, that we shouldn't cause a scene, but he stormed inside himself and made the girl look for it. He then told me to stop whining, like she probably had to take it out of the trash, and I've never been so embarrassed and angry in my life. He then proceeded to lecture me on how irresponsible I am, and when I said that I will cover the $10 and half the original amount, because it was obviously my mistake and I get it, he pushed the cash in my hand and told me that it was stupid, and that I ruined the whole thing because the whole purpose of eating there was to save money. I didn't speak to him on the way home, and then after some time, I sat down with him and I calmly explained to him that I understand why he got upset, but in the future, I want him to approach these situations with more calmness. And if I made this kind of mistake, I have no problem paying for it. Like, that really should be it. There's no need to fight over $10. He then said that it's not about the money, but apparently it's about the way I don't think while I do something, and just the principle of the matter. He said that he won't let anybody scam him, and he will not be calmer in the future because it was an impulsive reaction that he can't control. And right now, I don't know how to get my point across. How do I convince him that in that situation, money is not as important, and you can sometimes let things like that go if it means avoiding a fight? What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, I don't think there's any phrasing or anything like that that could try and make this better, because your boyfriend sounds very volatile. Like, this is a crazy overreaction if you ask me. Seriously, there's no excuse for this kind of behavior. This guy screamed and shouted at you over $10 that was obviously a mistake. No one did it on purpose. They weren't trying to scam anybody. This wasn't some active thing where it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna get $10 more out of these people. It truly felt like a mistake, and it just doesn't seem like that big of a deal. So in my opinion, I don't think there's anything you can say that will change your boyfriend. It does kind of seem like this is the way it is, and in my opinion, that's a good indication of whether or not I would want to stay with someone, because this kind of reaction is really embarrassing, and that would be a very triggering thing for me that I would absolutely not be okay with. My father tried to jokingly trip a waitress who was holding a giant stack of plates as she was leaving our table, putting me in a position that was really shocking because honestly, I can't believe that he actually tried that. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened a couple weeks ago, but I honestly just cannot get it out of my head. So here's the scene. There's an Irish pub near my parents' apartment where my dad is something of a regular. My dad is a 75-year-old man who has had a few and is pretty drunk, as in I needed to hold him up while we were walking the 2 blocks home. For all his flaws, my dad is a decent tipper, so all the young women who waitress there are always trying to stay on his good side. But after our waitress loaded up her arms with empty dinner plates, my dad smirkingly sticks out his foot as if he's going to trip the poor girl, but pulls it back at the last second. The waitress had a brief look of shock on her face, but then let out a forced laugh and took our plates back to the kitchen. But when I saw that, I was furious. I said to him, "What in the heck was that? You could have injured the poor girl for no reason." He then told me that it was only a joke and that I was overreacting, but I said, "No one is laughing. tipping. Never do that ever again. And when I said this, he looked a tiny bit ashamed of himself. When the bill came in, I upped the tip by about 30%. Thankfully, the old boomer can't do the math anymore and just trusts me to fill out the check for him. But I am still furious that a grown man could think possibly injuring an innocent person would somehow be funny for a prank. I mean, I would have called a 15-year-old immature for attempting that stunt, but a 75-year-old man absolutely should know better. Okay, if I was a server still and someone pulled that crap on me, I can guarantee you that I probably would have tripped anyways just by reaction alone, because holy crap, I'm a very clumsy person, and there's kind of a reason why I'm not in the restaurant business anymore. That kind of crap just really would not fly with me, and it would really kind of shake me up, because dude, that lady had a giant stack of plates that she's bringing back to the kitchen, and you pretending like you're gonna trip her all of a sudden is gonna make her overcompensate, and probably make her slip on what I imagine is a slippery floor. So yeah, that was really stupid. That was a very immature thing to do, and there's no good excuse. Because the original poster has it right. If this person was 15 years old, then it's okay, that was dumb, don't ever do that again. But your dad is literally 75. He absolutely knows better. So I think upping the tipping amount without him knowing was kind of a good thing to do, especially when you consider the stress that waitress went through for literally no reason. An entitled Karen and her family lied to me about how many people are staying in my Airbnb, claiming that they only had 6 people in the cabin that I own, when in reality there was secretly double the amount. And once I confronted them with this, they not only refused to leave, but they also demanded a refund. And I've honestly never been more blown away by somebody's dishonesty in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so my wife and I own a mountain cabin, and a few years ago we decided to put it on Airbnb. This place is a remote A-frame on 3 acres of forested land with awesome views, and it's about 30 minutes from a ski resort. This was our first Airbnb, so we were pretty cautious about everything. We looked at past guest reviews, asking them about their trip to make sure this place would suit them well. Basically trying to make sure we knew who was going to be there. Everything was going pretty well. That is until the entitled people of this story booked the whole weekend for Thanksgiving. They told us they were driving out from Texas, and it was supposed to be a mom, a dad, 3 kids, and 2 dogs. Now, being that this was our first holiday rental, we went all out for them. We set a turkey to defrost in the fridge for them, and left out a snack platter and a couple bottles of champagne. They arrived Sunday night, and the next few days are an absolute nightmare. I get a 6 o'clock in the morning call Monday morning. The whole family is puking, and they are incredibly sick. They all had altitude sickness. For reference, the cabin is at 11,000 feet above sea level, so this does happen, especially when you aren't in shape and you just came from sea level. I mean, we did warn the guests about this ahead of time, so I'm on the phone talking them through everything, where the urgent care is, what to do, etc. Thankfully, by day 2, things have calmed down. However, I then take a look at our water cistern gauge that's remotely monitored. This house has what we call a slow well recovery system. Basically, at some times of the year, the well might only produce around 60 gallons per day, instead of the usual 300 plus gallons or more. So we have a 500-gallon water storage system that helps smooth out the demand curves. Basically, once the tank goes below 40%, the well starts pumping, and if the well goes dry, a timer gets started, and it will pump again in 3 hours until the tank is topped off. Now, this system is more than adequate for 6 people in the house. Also, the house has only 1 bathroom, as well as a 40-gallon hot water tank, so it's not like anyone can take long showers. Tactically speaking, we just asked the guests to conserve water, but in the end, the system is fully automatic, and no one even knows that it's there. Well, after 48 hours, I check our tank monitor, and I see that it's around 35% full, which means the guests used all of the storage, plus whatever the well can produce in 2 days. I'm estimating about 700 gallons of water in total. I literally thought that something must be broken, because there was no way 2 parents and 3 little kids could use that much. I thought perhaps the well fuse popped and they got nothing from the well. So I'm now freaking out, thinking that this nice family was about to be without water. But boy was I wrong when I found out that these people were scamming us the entire time. So I called the family and I politely asked that they conserve water, and I had them reset the system, which is basically just turning the breaker on and off. I then told the lady on the phone that I was talking to that I would monitor the system for the next 3 hours, and if I didn't see the levels make any progress, I would get a water truck and bring it in. And trust me when I say this would literally be a first, as I've never needed to do it. The lady on the phone said to me, "That sounds good, but hurry because we drink a lot of water." Now honestly, how weird is a comment like that? As if 5 people drinking a gallon a day max somehow equates to the hundreds of gallons missing from the system. Fact Fast forward, and there really is no change in the water level after 3 hours, so I get on the phone to book a water truck. But as it's now only one day before Thanksgiving, it's just not happening. So now I need to figure out how to transport water to this house, which is, by the way, about an hour and a half away. So I went to a farm and tractor supply and bought a 275-gallon tank that would fit in my trunk, plus hoses and pumps. Then I drive up there, figuring out where I can buy bulk water from, and I go to the house. I finally get there at around 4 o'clock p.m., and the guests are out, but gave me permission to go inside and test things out. I mean, I really wanted to make sure the system was working. And while I did find out that it was working, it made me realize that they really did use all of that water. I went inside and I found 2 huskies in a crate who had soiled themselves, and it was all over the place. It smelled disgusting. The owner said they would be back and finally clean it up. At this point, I've been working on this for 8 hours. I'm sick, it's 10 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and I'm now hooking up the transfer pump. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving, and I still need to get to my parents' house. And thankfully, they're only 30 minutes away from the cabin, so it's not that long of a drive. I start pumping, and then I see their car pull up, and they are waiting at the bottom of the driveway. Knowing they have small kids, I go down and I say hi. I let them know they can go on in, and I'll be done in about 40 minutes. Now, at this point, they started acting really odd, and it's then that I saw 2 more cars on the side of the road around the switchback. And right at that moment, I finally realized what's going on. The reason I just did all this work and spent nearly $600 on supplies is because these people had 12 people staying there. Now, if you're curious as to how I didn't notice it when I went inside, I didn't snoop around the place. I just went straight to the breaker box and then went to the crawl space where the tanks are. Also, the smell from the dogs was just horrible, so I got out as fast as possible. At this point, I went up to the front door, I knocked on it, and I said, "Okay, be honest with me. How many people do you have staying here?" This lady actually looks at me and says, we have 9 people, but I could tell that she was lying. But even that number was over our legal capacity based on our permit. I say to them, "You realize that this listing is only for 6 people, right?" This entitled Karen says to me, "Well, there are beds for more people and the kids have a crib, and we didn't know our family wanted to come when we booked it." Now here's the thing, the loft does have a pull-out couch, so best case scenario, there is sleeping for about 8 adults, but I'm guessing people were sleeping on the couches as well. I then said to her, "I just spent $600 plus a full day to solve a problem that was actually not a problem." This entitled Karen actually said to me, "Well, the house should have water. I don't know what to tell you." I responded back by saying, "The house system was designed and tested for 6 people, lady. You know, the stated number on the listing. I don't know how you think it's okay to have this many people here." The entitled Karen then says what I was thinking before I could say it. She says to me, "Well, we could leave, but it will have to be tomorrow, and we expect a full refund because we don't want to drive down these roads in the dark with our kids." And at this point, it's maybe 6 o'clock in the evening at this point. There's no cell phone service at the cabin, so I went to town. I got on Wi-Fi at a local bar and I called the Airbnb. Now at this point, I had been hosting for 3 months and I had no idea how to handle this situation. But now I was more afraid that they would damage something in the house. So Airbnb canceled the reservation and asked them to leave the house. Overall, I was able to recover around $200 for a deep cleaning on the house, and thankfully, these people did not get a refund. Wow, those people sound like an absolute nightmare to deal with. Seriously, here you are having this cabin, and you listed it on Airbnb just to try and make some extra money on the side, only to then have this Karen and her stupid family basically try to scam you out of your money. Like seriously, that is so not okay. Like this guy went out of his way just to make sure these people had water, while also assuming that his system was broken and things were really bad. That's a lot of stress and money that they spent and had to go through just to find out these people were lying to them the entire time. So honestly, good for you for getting something out of this situation. I am so glad Airbnb had your back on this one, because I think I would have lost my mind if I didn't make money off of that situation, because these people sound absolutely awful, and there's no good excuse for the way they treated you. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My girlfriend of nearly 7 years confessed to me 5 days ago that she cheated on me 2 years into our relationship, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I first want to start off by saying that we met on a dating app on Halloween night 2016. I had just turned 21 and had been in only one serious relationship until that point, which had lasted 6 months and ended with me being cheated on, but thankfully she confessed right away. I was definitely looking for a partner and talked to a variety of other potential partners, but we just clicked. We talked for about 2 weeks, but it became pretty obvious that we were very attracted to each other. Mid-November was the first time we met. I drove 2 hours to hang out with her while her mom was away, and we hooked up. In the following weeks, she let me know she would be moving an 8-hour drive away. We weren't official at this point, but I did feel strong emotions towards her, so I asked her to be mine the weekend she moved away. I reassured her that I would visit her and that this would all work out, and for the next 2.5 years we went back and forth visiting each other. I even hopped on a plane for the first time in my life to go see her. We have lived together since summer of 2019, and up until a few days ago, we were finally going to rent out our own spot. I've never suspected that she could be unfaithful because of how she's shown genuine care and support for myself and my family. We have been together for some of the most memorable events of each other's lives. Stuff like graduations, parents' weddings, and vacations. We even adopted 2 cats a few months ago. The last 2 weeks have been especially fun since we started going out places a lot more. For the first time in years, I felt good about where I was in life, and I was super excited looking forward. Fast forward, and Sunday morning was normal. She got up and went to church while I slept in. I got the call right around noon. She sounded distraught. She said to me, "I really need to talk to you. Can you meet me in the car?" I figured maybe she had an argument with our friend that she usually goes to church with, or some other issue not related to the relationship. When I went to her in the car, she was already sobbing. She said to me, "I love you now more than ever." I don't recall how exactly the words went, but she began explaining to me how on Halloween night of 2018, she went out to an event with 2 of her coworkers, 1 guy and 1 girl. After the event was over, my girlfriend dropped off the girl because her drop-off point was closest. Now, I'm not sure at what point my girlfriend decided to let the guy drive. She claims that she was super tired by now, as it was close to 2 in the morning. She explains to me how she had never had any ideas about this guy or any attraction at all, but he was being really pushy about getting some action. Thinking about what happened next really messes with my head. He convinces her to make out, which she claims was disgusting, and I don't know how long this went on, but once she tried to say enough, he kept pushing for more. Eventually, they hopped in the back seat and things went from there, if you know what I mean. According to her, she started crying not long after things started to get going, which made this guy stop, grab her phone, and block himself on her Snapchat. Now, my girlfriend still worked at the job she worked at for a while, but she says they had 0 contact afterwards and would avoid him all the time afterwards. The way I see it, she had so many options, but she chose to cheat on me with someone she wasn't even attracted to. And this is all out of weakness because she couldn't stand up for herself. Now, I do believe her when she says it all came down to her being pressured and confused. She's a super nice person. She's very shy and reserved, and I see how this could have happened back then, but it still doesn't change the fact that it happened, and I've been lied to for the past 5 years. Once it settled in on Sunday night, we talked again, and it ended with me asking for space away from her, which she respected and stayed with her friends for the 2 following nights. On Tuesday, we talked after work and decided to try and work things through. She then moved back in that night. I still feel that I love her, but there's something missing. It's definitely the trust, but maybe more than that. I've woken up from nightmares in the past 2 nights, which is rare for me to even have nightmares in the first place, and they both included themes of being betrayed by her or being made to feel like I'm not enough. I'm struggling to choose where to go from here. I really want it to work, but the trust is broken and I'm not sure if I'll ever get it back. I'm afraid staying with her will end up bad for the both of us. Should I risk the pain of being hurt again or put myself through the pain of letting her go? I haven't told anyone else about this, and honestly at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. This is such an awful situation, but honestly, I don't think it's awful in the ways that you might be thinking. I'm really not convinced that she totally cheated on you. It really does seem like she was forced into that situation, and she's just coming to grips with the fact that she didn't do anything about it at the time. It doesn't seem like this was a willing choice in my opinion, and I think this guy really was doing something super sketchy with your girlfriend. So in my opinion, I don't think this is cheating. Like, she did not seek this guy out specifically. This guy pushed her into doing something she was not comfortable with. She even cried and told him to stop. Like, that doesn't sound like cheating to me. Cheating would be like her going behind your back and doing this without you knowing about it. But it honestly doesn't seem like that's happening at all. Instead, this really sounds like something much more sinister and evil. It's not even funny. And I think your girlfriend is actually the victim of something that happened, instead of a cheater who was going behind your back. So hopefully you can kind of see exactly what's happening right now, because personally, I am not convinced that your girlfriend actually cheated on you. Am I the jerk for kicking out my girlfriend and her son after she invited her ex-boyfriend into our home. Here's what happened. To start things out, every name in this story is fake. My girlfriend and I, by the name of Sarah, have been together for 4 years, and she has a son with her ex by the name of Mark. Sarah has full custody of her son, with her ex having scheduled visitations one weekend every month. Sarah and her son moved in with me a little over a year and a half ago, and in my perspective, it was a little rocky at first. I've always been pretty protective of my space, so making room for 2 other people was difficult for me. When Sarah moved in with me, we both agreed that the visitations for Mark would be held in our apartment as long as I'm home. The main reason I wanted this is because I don't know Mark that well, and I don't want him wandering around our apartment without me there. And when we proposed this idea to Mark, he was fine with it. Now, moving on to the real issue, 3 weeks ago marked 4 months since Mark last visited, so I had asked Sarah when he was planning on visiting his son. My girlfriend replied by shrugging her shoulders and telling me that she would ask him. Well, she never followed up with it. So a few days ago, I asked when Mark's next visit was, and Sarah said she'll tell me when she knew. Sarah's son was also in the living room, but had apparently overheard us and shouted something along the lines of, "Well, Dad was here last weekend, remember?" When her son said this, Sarah's face immediately dropped, and when I asked what he meant by that, she wouldn't give me a direct answer. Eventually, she ended up telling me that for the past 2 visits, Mark had been to our apartment when I was working. When I accused her of going back on our agreement, she kept telling me this was her home too, and she could invite whoever she wanted, and that it was fine because she was here and watching what he was doing. I told her that was besides the point, and she violated my trust. This then blew up into a huge argument, which ended in me telling her to get out of my apartment. So she packed up and left with her son, and the last I heard, she was staying with her parents. I have since gotten several messages from both Sarah and her parents calling me a jerk for kicking Sarah and her son out of their home over something that was so small. She's even been blasting me on Instagram and Facebook about how horrible I am to do this to her. It's now got me thinking that I might be the jerk in this situation, but I'm honestly not entirely sure yet. So what do you think? Am I in the wrong here? What should I do? Honestly, this is a really tricky situation. For starters, it really does seem like from the outside looking in that you kicked her out over something relatively small. Like, this is the first time you heard about this. It really seems like we went from, okay, you did this behind my back, to suddenly saying you can't live here anymore. Like, if you ask me, that's a giant leap. You're going from, hey, I'm really not happy that you did this, to suddenly saying, okay, you don't have a place to live anymore. And you know what? I kind of see where Sarah's coming from. She does live there, even though the apartment's yours. She does have a slight claim over that living space just as much as you do. But I can also see your point of view as well. You really don't want Mark there without you present. You simply don't know him, and you feel that it's inappropriate for him to be there without you present as well. Which again, I completely understand where you're coming from here. I wouldn't want this guy wandering around my apartment and judging it or doing stuff to it that I wouldn't know about. Even though I'm sure that didn't happen, but I think you get my point. So with that in mind, I can completely understand why you would be so upset about her doing this behind your back. This was a massive betrayal of trust, and I would be very mad that she did this without talking to me first, especially after we agreed that that's not how we handle this. Now, I wouldn't be so mad as to kick my girlfriend out of the house, but I would still be disappointed that this happened regardless. So in my opinion, I think this could have been handled really differently. I think there very easily could have been some kind of mutual understanding between the two of you, while also still allowing her to live in your apartment. I think you made a very rash decision, and I think it would be in your best interest, if you really want to keep this relationship going, to try and fix this as much as you can. But that's just my opinion. What do you think? Leave a comment down below. Would you have let Sarah stay in your apartment if this happened to you? Or would you be just as angry as the original poster and kick her out of the apartment altogether? Leave a comment down below. We would love to hear what you have to say. Am I the jerk for calling my ex greedy after she came to me begging for money? Here's what happened. I want to start off by saying that all names in this story are fake. I'm a 32-year-old male, and I was married to Emma, who's 32 years old, for almost 8 years. We have known each other practically our whole lives, and we got together towards the end of high school and married when we were in college. Our son was born a year later. We were young, about 21 years old at the time, but I really thought we would be together always. I adored her, and I picked up and moved because she wanted to follow her parents and sister to another state. I worked while she stayed at home with our son. Then, 4 years ago, I thought we were expecting our second child together, but instead I came home to find her with another guy. They were talking about their baby, and she was saying how excited she was to see his little girl. She told me during the divorce that she was telling him that so he would stay and she knew her daughter was really mine. But DNA proved otherwise, and I rejected any parental responsibility for her daughter. Now, because we were legally married and the actual father was gone, it was tricky to get the courts to sever the automatic parental rights. But in the end, they did. I mean, Emma even put me on the birth certificate. Thankfully, that was erased when I was freed from responsibility towards Emma's daughter. Emma tried so many times to get me back. I have told her each and every time that I would never look at her and love her again. I told her the best thing for her to do is find someone else and leave me alone. We share custody of our son, and he has struggled with everything that's happened. I found a therapist for him when we were going through the divorce, and they check in with each other from time to time. My son had questions that I did my best to answer with a therapist. Questions about whether we will ever get back together again when it comes to me and Emma, while also asking if Emma's my daughter, and also wanting to know why, since he was told that she was mine before the affair was discovered. And Emma even said this afterwards, just to try and make me take her daughter on as well. I pay child support for my son. I also send him over with clothes and stuff I buy for him because Emma can't afford to clothe him very well. And a judge has said that does not matter in terms of custody. Emma has tried to get me more clothes that a boy or a girl could wear just so that she can use them for her daughter too eventually. But I simply refused. She also asked me to buy girly toys or to buy gifts for her son to give to his sister. She broke down in front of me a few days ago when we left a meeting for my son's school, and she told me she's struggling and her daughter is growing up seeing her brother have so much more than her, and she feels guilty but she needs my help. She said I'm the only person who could or even would help her out. I ended up calling her greedy while she was pleading for me, and I told her if she wanted stuff for her daughter, then she better chase after her baby daddy and leave me alone because I will never be responsible for her child. She then started yelling at me and I just walked away. That night she sent me a dozen messages saying that I was spiteful towards a child and it made me more of a jerk than her. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Honestly, with all things considered and the nightmare that she put you through, I think I would feel the exact same way. Like she tried to claim this daughter was yours when in reality she was cheating on you. This is all just the results of her actions. And if she doesn't like that, then honestly, that is her problem, not yours. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all. And sure, what you said is maybe a little bit mean, but I think her cheating on you and ruining your marriage is way worse than anything you said that night. My entitled, greedy maid of honor used money that was meant for my bachelorette party to pay off her credit card debt without anybody knowing. And as a result of finding out this information, I've decided to kick her out of my wedding, and I'm now being called a jerk by members of my family. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 23-year-old female, and I'm getting married in a couple of days. My maid of honor was in charge of planning my bachelorette party, which I wanted to be a surprise. We live in a city, but none of us live downtown, so I was hoping for a hotel room downtown and having a fun night out with friends, maybe a brunch or something like that. Most of the bridal party live locally, but two girls flew in just for this. When the maid of honor picked me up 2 weeks ago on Friday, I was excited to see where we were going and what we would be doing. Well, we ended up going down to her one-bedroom townhome and spent the whole weekend there. There were 8 of us in total, so needless to say, it was cramped, and we kept running into issues with only one bathroom. On Friday night, we had games and ordered pizza. Saturday, we had a mimosa bar. We went shopping, ordered food, and watched a movie, all before parting ways on Sunday. And this was just not the bachelorette party of my dreams, or even a particularly fun weekend, but it was okay and I appreciated it. Last weekend, my fiance had just returned from a work trip. I had not caught him up to speed on the party because there really wasn't much to report, but when he returned, we were chatting and I told him about the party. He looked confused but said nothing else that evening. The next day, I got a message from my maid of honor asking to meet up to talk about something. She revealed that my fiance had given her a significant amount of money over a year ago with the intention that it would be used to pay for a bachelorette party. It would have been enough money to pay for the entire bridal party to do a week-long vacation out of town, including airfare, hotel, food, drinks, and a lot of fun. Now, for the record, I wasn't expecting this type of event. A weekend downtown would have been wonderful, and even though the party at her home wasn't what I hoped for, I was fine with it because I got to be with all of my friends. But that didn't matter much once I found out what she did with the money. Instead of using it on me having a good bachelorette party, she instead used the money to pay off credit card debt and hope that nobody would notice. I told her I needed some time to process this and I decided to go home. After talking talking with my fiance about it, I decided that the best action would be to remove her from the wedding. I came to this decision because I don't feel I can trust her, and I don't want her to be standing next to me at my wedding. I slept on it overnight, and I sent her a text saying this on Monday. Since then, I've been getting text messages from her mom and boyfriend telling me how awful I am for doing this, since I didn't need a big party, and my now former maid of honor was able to financially benefit from it. My own mother is also against removing her from the wedding, as she's like a sister to our family, and how she thinks it would be tragic for me to get married without her there. The rest of the bridal party is split, with half saying I shouldn't have kicked her out, and the other half completely agreeing with me. My former maid of honor has called me crying, because she already has her dress, and she can't wear it anywhere else. Also, as a side note, my fiance and I paid for all the dresses. At this point, I want the wedding to be over with, so I can be on my honeymoon and not have to deal with all of these people. So honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk for kicking my maid of honor out of my wedding after she stole the money that was meant for my bachelorette party? What should I do? This is insane to me, mostly because I can't imagine anyone being on the maid of honor side. Like, what she did is so unacceptable, it is literally theft. She didn't financially benefit from this situation. She stole money from your fiance and didn't use it the way it was supposed to be used. And from the sounds of it, it sounds like a lot of money. Like, she was given a significant chunk of change. Also, you could have some kind of party out of town without having to drop any money on your own. Like, it doesn't sound like this was like a couple $100. If anything, it sounds like several thousands of dollars. And I'm thinking like somewhere in the 5-digit mark. And if it's seriously that much, and she really thought that nobody would notice and she would just get away with it, that in my opinion is so disturbing and so toxic. I mean, if I was in the original poster's shoes, there's no way I would want her at my wedding. This supposed friend and quote sister of the family stole from my fiance and used the money that was given to her for her own selfish needs. Like, I seriously just cannot fathom anybody defending this situation because this is so unacceptable. So no, absolutely not. I don't think you're the jerk in this situation. Your maid of honor is insane for thinking she could get away with this. So I don't blame you for getting away from her and deciding that she can't be a part of your wedding. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled manager demands that I stay late so that I can work overtime just like everybody else. And despite the fact that I was the best worker at this place, I decided to maliciously comply, essentially getting paid for doing nothing. And I've never felt better about sitting on my phone and doing nothing while everybody else was working hard. Here's what happened. Years ago, I was working a call center job for a well-known e-commerce site. We were first and foremost phone or chat customer support, but also would respond to customer emails that would come in the form of tickets. During the holidays, we would get absolutely wrecked with emails since people were doing their holiday shopping. The company would routinely understaff during the holidays and then require us to do mandatory overtime to compensate for the extra calls and emails we received. Now, as a note, we're in Texas, which is an at-will employer state, so this is totally legal, by the way, even though it's morally awful. Anyways, I was consistently one of their top ticket closers, averaging about 150 tickets a day, whereas some other employees averaged maybe about 70, if that. Mandatory overtime season rolls around, and my boss sends out an email that every employee will be assigned 25 extra tickets during each day of this week, and of which they're expected to stay past their scheduled shift time to complete it. During the workday, we were expected to close the same amount of tickets we would normally close, which is all outside of the additional tickets that we were assigned. Those tickets we would pick out of a shared ticket queue and assign to ourselves. Monday, I come in, I knock out the 25 tickets that were pre-assigned to me, and I go on my merry way closing the additional 150-ish tickets I normally close. I finish by the end of my shift and then I leave. I was the top ticket closer that day by a wide margin. My boss would leave at 5 o'clock, but would be checking our time clocks from home to see when we clocked out. Tuesday morning rolls around, and first thing, my boss pulls me aside for an impromptu meeting. My boss said to me, "I noticed you didn't stay late last night to complete your tickets like everybody else." I said to them, "Correct. I completed the assigned tickets in addition to my normal workload without needing to stay late, so I left." My boss then said, "Well, if you finished all those tickets within your scheduled workday, that doesn't count as extra work. Those tickets would count as part of your normal work week, which means you are in violation of our mandatory overtime policy." I respond back by saying, "Well, as you can see, I am the top ticket closer by a wide margin, and you can also see that I completed the extra work that is expected expected of me and then some. So what is the expectation going forward? My boss looked at me and said, "The expectation is that you'll stay late like everybody else and do the extra work." Now at this point, I didn't feel like arguing much further, and things were getting a bit heated in this discussion. I then made it known that it didn't seem fair that I should be punished for being faster at closing tickets than most of my colleagues, and that I'm still completing the extra work while closing twice as many tickets as everyone else. We seemed to be at an impasse between my having finished what was expected of me and what was actually important to her, which was me being clocked in after hours like everyone else. I welcomed her to assign me an additional 25 tickets a day, bringing my additional total of tickets all the way up to 50, and this was because it seemed like 25 extra tickets was no problem to complete. I also agreed to stay late just to work on them. Every day that week, I came in, knocked out the extra tickets, and closed my normal amount of tickets, sometimes working through lunch as well. By the end of my shift, I had averaged around 200 tickets each day, and I then sat at my desk and did absolutely nothing on my phone for over an hour while still clocked in. I had a nice little bit of overtime pay between staying late and working through lunch. So I guess the moral of this story is that if you want me to work late, I'm definitely gonna work late. Thanks for paying me overtime to do the same thing I would be doing while sitting on my couch at home after work. It just goes to show that the efficient employees will always be punished with more work. Wow, that manager is a complete idiot. Seriously, why would you make them stay later if they did all their work? Like they did the extra 25 tickets. Why would you then have a problem with them staying late? In a perfect world, an employee like this would have been rewarded as well as given a raise or more incentives to keep doing more tickets. Like why would you be like, "No, it's not fair for you to leave early because you did all your stuff. You need to stay late just like everybody else." Like seriously, that's a massive waste of time and nobody needs that. Like they're just lighting money on fire at that point. As this original poster said it best, they are literally just gonna sit there and do nothing on their phone. I bet you that manager only did that so they could use that as some kind of incentive to show to their manager that, hey, everybody's working late. Look at all these people staying overtime and doing their job. I literally think your boss was just trying to use you as some kind of pawn in their own game. So truly good for you for getting that overtime by doing absolutely nothing. Your manager sounds like a complete idiot, but in the end you got some sweet overtime pay, which hopefully made the entire experience of staying late well worth it. I broke up with my girlfriend because she was gaining weight, but now that she's lost weight, she has started to become attractive again, and I'm wondering if I should get back in a relationship with her or if I should just let it go and move on. Here's what happened. So about 2 years ago, I met a girl in my master's program by the name of Stacy. Stacy is not her real name. Stacy is one of the most amazing and intelligent people I've ever met in my life. Every conversation with her is exciting and interesting. She has such a broad array of hobbies, interests, and knowledge, and I feel truly thankful for every conversation I have with her. Not once in my life have I ever met anyone who I felt understood me like her, and I can honestly say that she might be the smartest person I've ever met in my life. She and I quickly hit it off and fell into a situationship that lasted about 8 months or so before we broke things off. At first, the relationship was great, and our energies matched pretty well. We studied and hung out together all the time, and I was happy. Stacy has an ADHD diagnosis, and when we first met, she was using a prescription that suppressed her appetite. Before her diagnosis, she was about 30 to 40 pounds heavier, and 4 months into the relationship, she had a medication change and started to gain back to what it seems like is her baseline before graduate school, all based off of old pictures. Now, I hate to say it, but her baseline before graduate school is heavier than what I'm attracted to. While she wasn't obese or anything like that, most people I think would say that she was a little bit chubby. I tried for a couple of months to get past it, but I started to lose interest in her, and I found myself declining in being close with her. I couldn't bring myself to tell her it was because of her weight. Stacy has a relatively bad attitude towards exercise to begin with, and I worried about hurting her feelings and shaking that confidence she carried with her every day. We had also been dating for a few months, and I didn't feel it was fair for me to ask my partner to change how she maintained her body so early in a relationship. I started to make excuses when she would come on to me, saying I wasn't in the mood or that I was too stressed out, just avoiding to tell her the root cause. I hate to say it, but as this progressed, I also started feeling bad about going out in public with her. I like to think that I am pretty handsome. I mean, people compliment me on my appearance relatively often. I exercise regularly, I have some good muscle mass, and I do my best to eat healthy. A couple of friends mentioned to me behind closed doors that they felt I could do better than her. I started resenting her not valuing my effort in the gym, as well as her lack of value towards fitness. I subconsciously stopped touching her in public public and started avoiding situations around the house where we could be closer than we normally would. I cited the stress of school as the cause of my withdrawal, and as a result, we started to fight more often. She is an explosive fighter and confronts issues directly and intensely, whereas I'm pretty avoidant and have a bad habit of not bringing up problems until they get really bad. We eventually agreed mutually to cut it off. I explained that our frequent and intense verbal fighting was too intense for me, and she vocalized that she felt she wasn't given enough attention and she wanted more physical time together than I was willing to give her, if you know what I mean. I felt like a complete jerk for letting her go without even trying to talk to her about the weight problems, as I feel we both missed out on what could have been a beautiful and lifelong relationship. Fast forward a year and a half after the breakup, and Stacy and I are still best friends. We talk every day and we fight seldom. We have both had a couple of flings since the breakup, but are now both single again. She has lost weight, and I am finding myself feeling attracted to her again. Now, I know I just spent the last paragraphs telling about all the bad things in our relationship, but it is a disservice to exclude the good. She is so charismatic and funny. She is interesting, intelligent, and overall an amazing person to be around. She is the kind of woman that leaves everybody that has interacted with her better than what they were before. In the months that I have known her, I feel I've grown more as a person than any time before in my life. And I really do think I made her life better too. I desperately want to ask her out and give the relationship another shot, but I really worry about things going back to how they were. What's more, I don't want to make her feel bad about her body again. She is an amazing person, and she deserves to feel happy and confident with the way she looks. I am assuming that the correct answer here is to let my feelings go and allow her to go find someone who loves her unconditionally, regardless of her weight. But I can't help but worry that I'm never going to meet someone like her ever again. I feel super guilty that something so shallow is the thing that is keeping me from someone I could have otherwise seen myself spending the rest of my life with. But a relationship where one partner isn't physically attracted to the other is not healthy. I recognize and accept that people age and nobody stays young and good looking forever, but I feel that losing that before your 30s is just too early. So now I'm at a total loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, this is seriously insane to me. You dumped this lady all because of her weight, and now that she's losing weight again, you're like, oh, wait a second, I want to get back with her. Like, seriously, that is such a selfish and shallow thing to do, it's not even funny. You would literally be throwing her back into another toxic relationship, and the reason why it's toxic is because of you. If I were in your shoes, no matter how I felt, there's no way I would go back into that relationship. I would allow her to move on with her life and not be so shallow that I would want to get back with her all because her appearance has changed. Like, seriously, I think you should just leave her alone. Like, I really think you're going about this in a really unhealthy way. And I think it's in your best interest to leave her alone and let her find somebody who's much better for her in the long run. My narcissistic father has told me that I will amount to nothing in life, mocking me and making fun of me, as well as treating me like garbage after I've sacrificed so much just to help him out in his time of need. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So to start things out, my dad is elderly. He's partially disabled as he walks with a cane and has mobility issues. And most of all, he is a narcissist. My mom passed away 2 years ago unexpectedly, and she was the single most person I was the closest to in my life, and since her passing, difficult has been an understatement. My dad treats me as though I'm disposable. I have helped him in every way possible. Within the last year, I basically temporarily have moved in to help him as he had health issues earlier in the year and was in the hospital several times. He was diagnosed with some level of heart failure and has kidney disease, which was maintainable until this year when it worsened a bit because of the heart issues that he has. I basically became his caretaker and took on this role even against my better judgment of how he has treated me over time. My sister sometimes helps, but not often enough to make a difference. She is not working at the moment, and my dad gives her money to help her. In a lot of ways, he tries to buy her affection because she has taken space from him when he's been disrespectful in the past. So now he tries to do everything to get on her good side. However, with me, he basically treats me like he can say anything in the world to me. I've tried to set multiple boundaries, and it's been very tricky territory. I plan to move out, so I've been apartment searching, which has been difficult. However, in the interim, it's made things very difficult because I depend on him financially right now, since I basically put my whole life on hold to be his caretaker. So when he doesn't like a certain thing or being spoken to in a certain way, he basically then threatens to not pay me for the following month. For instance, it's almost the end of October and something happened today, and he basically said he's not going to pay me November 1st because he doesn't want my help. It's become such a toxic situation. situation. Today, I came in the room that he was in, and he had put his cane directly on top of my laptop. I asked him to please not do that, and he then gave me immediately a very hard time and told me that I am always coming after him and telling him what to do. He told me that my laptop shouldn't have been there because that's always where he puts his cane. I tried to maintain a calm demeanor, but at the same time, I tried to tell him that I'm not coming after him, just to let him know when something isn't right. He doesn't like being told what to do, but at the same time, he has done things that are unsafe recently that I've had to tell him to stop. For instance, today he had spilled water on the floor and didn't notice it, I guess, which I almost slipped on. I told him he has to be more mindful around the sink. Also, he will leave his portable heater on even when going out, and so I told him that he has to turn that off for safety reasons. He told me that I'm coming after him and that he doesn't want me around. He doesn't want me to even talk, and he doesn't want my help. He told me that he isn't going to give me money on the first of the month and that he will do everything himself. There have been numerous times where he has threatened me like this before. It's honestly done mental damage on me to have to rely on somebody who can be so verbally awful. I've been doing everything to get out of the situation, and I continue to do so vigorously. I regret coming to help him because before this, I had my own life and my own finances and apartment. He told me I will amount to nothing in my life, that I'm so irritating to be around, and much more. It makes me feel incredibly emotional and incredibly alone. I know I should not believe the things he says because he is a straight up narcissist, but sometimes I react to what he says, which I can't do because he typically uses that and says to me, "Wow, look how emotional you're getting." Today, I didn't react in an emotional way, but I did tell him that this is not okay. He basically just kept on and then screamed at me to get out of his face. I'm honestly in a very bad emotional spot right now because of all of this. He makes me feel like I can't actually rely on him in any capacity, and that he is able to flip the switch at any point in time with my emotions. And now at this point, with all things considered, I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, this is an awful situation. I'm just gonna say it, your dad sounds awful. Either he's grieving the loss of his wife, or he really is just a massive piece of garbage, and he seriously needs a reality check. Like, you literally uprooted your life just to help take care of him. You didn't need to do that. You easily could have looked the other way and done nothing about his life situation. I mean, this guy has so many health problems, it's not even funny. And the fact that he wants to act like this and treat you like garbage, as if you're some kind of punching bag in his life, is so unacceptable. It's just something that I would not put up with. So good for you for making the steps necessary so that you can get out of this awful situation. Look, your dad is not a nice person. He doesn't sound like a good person in the slightest. And whether he's grieving the loss of his wife, or if he is just being an awful person altogether, in my opinion, it doesn't matter. You do not need to live in this toxic situation. And here's the thing, if he really wants help and he needs somebody to help take care of him, he can use that money he was paying you and give it to an actual care worker who can give him exactly what he needs and still clock out at the end of the day. Because I'm willing to bet one day he's gonna look up and realize that he's alone. And hopefully he'll realize that he should have treated you a lot better. My entitled daughter is mocking and making fun of her brother after he got in a motorcycle accident and lost part of his foot and his hand, thus making it impossible for him to play Division I basketball in college. And after hearing her mock her brother relentlessly on the phone to her friends, I'm seriously considering not paying for her future college education. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a widow from a previous marriage, and so is my wife. She has a son who's 19 years old from her previous marriage, and I have a daughter as well. We dated for roughly 5 years before being married for 3 years now, and our kids have known each other since the beginning. No major fights or any weirdness besides getting to know someone else as a parent and a guardian. My son was a tremendous athlete in basketball, and I used to play in college at a school I'm sure none of you have heard of. Regardless, I know the ins and outs of basketball, and when he asked me to coach him, I was more than happy to. It turns out that he was good, really good. He was so good he could play in Division I. My wife is a controller and I'm a pharmacist, and together we make a very, very comfortable living, but we're not rich. So when my son was getting scholarship offers for basketball, I realized we could pay for my daughter's college in full, and neither of them would have any student loan debt when they graduate. And this was a plan that I had shared with my daughter, which I think was a complete mistake to begin with. These plans changed when my son tried riding on someone else's motorcycle, all with their permission but with zero training. And as a result, he ended up getting badly injured on the ensuing crash. He lost part of his hand and his foot. It was not life-threatening, but basketball absolutely ended. This happened last year, and my son has been in a deep depression that we're desperate desperately trying to bring him out of, but he feels like his entire identity got ripped away in the blink of an eye. He has been in counseling and prescribed medication, but it has not helped thus far. Recently, he confided in me that the pills he's on has unfortunate side effects, where he basically feels virtually no interest in anything, and because of that, he wants to stop them. I told him the important thing is that he's with us, but he can bring up that with his doctor on the next visit. Fast forward 2 weeks, and I'm upstairs looking for something in my room. I then heard my daughter talking to her friends on her phone about college. The conversation turned towards her brother, and she said the following: "I can't wait to be gone. I'm tired of hearing my brother cry every single day." She also said that his hand is gross, and that she knew spirits in the house had shifted since he became injured. And honestly, I didn't think that she felt this type of way. I was gonna talk to her later about this, but then I heard her say the following: "I heard him say that he can't even get up anymore." And she said this all while laughing. And when I heard that, I was absolutely furious. I stormed into her room. I took her phone, her laptop, I took her car keys and the TV out of her room. I told her she should be ashamed of herself for how she's talked about her brother, and that he might do something permanent if he heard you talking about him like that. When my wife got home, we talked about what happened, and while she's proud of the way I stood up for my son, she thinks it's too far to also not pay for college, since we could easily do so as well. So honestly, would I be the jerk if I don't pay for my daughter's college? I am simply so heated over this situation, and I honestly don't know what to do. First and foremost, the way your daughter was talking about her brother is awful. Her brother just lost part of his hand and his foot. Like seriously, that is not something you want to joke about. This literally just happened, and the poor guy is taking medication so he can try and feel better, all on top of seeing a therapist. Literally, his entire future got taken away from him. The fact that she thinks that that's funny and that she can make fun of that in some kind of way is so toxic and unbelievably disturbing. I'm sure she wouldn't be feeling that way if it happened to her. Now, with all that in mind, and all the horrible things that she said, I do think that it would be an overreaction to deny her any payment towards college. Here's the thing, you can absolutely still punish her. Take the phone away, take the car away, take away everything you possibly could. But in my opinion, taking away that college education is not okay. I personally think that's taking things a bit too far, and I just don't think it's gonna serve anybody well in the long run. So yes, I don't think you should go about that plan. I think she definitely needs to learn respect, but I don't think that should be at the cost of her education. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I messed up by not cultivating my friendship with my best friend from high school, and now she's incredibly upset, and I'm worried that I've ruined a good friendship in my life. Here's what happened. So as the title states, I absolutely loathe myself for ruining the best friendship I've ever had. I met my best friend, let's call her Sarah, that's not her real name, when I had shifted schools mid-high school. We instantly hit it off and became extremely close. I used to go to her house frequently and vice versa. I had a hard time attending school, but she always used to be my motivation to wake up and get my stuff together. I would also like to add in that I was in the worst mental decline during that time. She immensely helped me during breakdowns during my classes, always looked out for me, and was just the greatest friend a person could ask for. She too was going through some major stuff, and I tried to be there as much as I could. She was the type of person that was honestly so mature when handling things, and honestly, I love her to death, and I still do. You see, Sarah was the type of person who didn't have many friends, but was well acquainted with pretty much everybody. She had opened up to me about things she hadn't even told her long-term friends of 16 years, and I was honestly happy that she felt comfortable enough to share it with me. My favorite memory of my schooling is honestly walking with her till the bus to drop her off and give her a hug and say goodbye. Now, this is where I messed up. After my last year of high school, gradually my side of communication started to lag behind. She inquired about it, and honestly speaking, that time came up with a lame excuse of being busy with college preparation. Slowing my side of contact was barely there. But the thing is, even though I talked to her rarely, in my mind she was my best friend, and I would talk fondly about her to everybody that I meet. I told people how great of a person she is, and would honestly gush about her to everybody. She called me out multiple times for not calling and texting, or even if we were texting, it wouldn't go beyond me simply saying hello. Over months we talked like never, and whatever plans were made to meet up, I would cancel due to some issue or another. I had gotten into university in a different state, and before leaving, I met up with her. She expressed to me how she would never forgive me for causing her this pain, and from her side, said she would remain a friend to me, but was no longer hers. I told her I would maintain contact with her when I leave, but she frankly told me that if I couldn't do that while living in the same city, she highly doubts it will happen when I change states. And honestly, I miss everything about the girl. I want to rekindle this friendship, and I want one last chance, but I don't think that would happen. I don't want to cause her much pain. I regret this every day, and everywhere I go, I'm reminded of her in different people or activities. There is not a single day that goes by that I don't think about her constantly. I know I acted awful and I wasn't reliable, and my actions were understandably pretty bad. I just don't know how to go about it at this point, and I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, I really do understand where you're coming from here. I've experienced this on both sides of this situation. I've been the friend trying to reach out to somebody else, and I've also been the friend that somebody else has tried to reach out to, and both situations really do suck. Here you had a great friendship, you were doing a lot, and then suddenly all contact kind of just slowly fades away. And unfortunately, just from personal experience, that kind of happens after high school. You think you're gonna have these lifelong friends with some of these people, but it just doesn't happen. That's not always the case. There's plenty of friends I keep in contact with from high school, but overall, what you're experiencing is more common than you think. If you want to try and rekindle the friendship, I would just go ahead and apologize to her. Just be completely truthful about what's going on. Tell her that you'll make more of an effort and then make the effort necessary to keep this relationship going. And this is definitely going to require some work. I mean, your friend definitely has a point. You do live in a separate state after all, and if you want to find success in this friendship, it's definitely going to require a lot of hard work. Am I the jerk for choosing my wife over my brother's wedding at the last possible second? Here's what happened. So for a bit of context, I'm a 36-year-old male, and I'm married to my beautiful wife who's 28 years old. We've been together for 8 years and married for 3. I also have a little brother who's about 25 years old, and both my parents are 55. Recently, my brother's getting married on Friday. I was supposed to be a groomsman, but I didn't go and stayed home with my wife. Now, here's some context as to why I made that decision. During the wedding planning, my precious wife found out she was pregnant with our first baby. Of course, we were over the moon, but kept it on the down low to not take attention from my brother and his wife. Well, a few weeks ago, our precious little girl was born, and though she is a little doll, we suspect she has colic, and she has been crying nonstop. I was still going to go to the wedding, but when the day came, my wife was very stressed out and couldn't get our little girl to sleep or do anything really. She wouldn't sleep, eat, or even stop crying, and would keep going until her little face was red. My wife was exhausted, you could really tell, so I decided to stay and try and take care of my daughter while I tried to let my wife sleep. I called my brother to let him know that I just couldn't make it, and he flipped out at me. He was yelling and screaming, calling me every name under the sun. So when he started doing that, I just decided to hang up. Not even a few minutes after that, my parents were blowing up my phone, calling me a jerk for bailing on the wedding. When I tried explaining why, my mother said to me, "Who cares? It's the wife's job to take care of the kid, not the men," which is not true at all, by the way. After I still wouldn't budge, my parents told my family, leading to some family members to blow up my phone some more. When my wife found out, she was apologizing over and over again, but I don't think my wife should feel bad for needing a break. I have since blocked the family members who were scolding me, and I've gone low contact with my brother and parents until things calmed down. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, this is a really sketchy situation because I can see both sides of this. For starters, I totally understand where you're coming from. Your wife just had a baby, and the baby is not doing well. They're crying, they won't go to sleep, they won't eat any food. There's a lot of things that you're trying to deal with, and your wife is exhausted. So I understand your desire to say, okay, I need to take a step back and try and help my wife out in some kind of way. But on the other side of this, I think the way you went about doing that was really uncalled for. I can kind of understand where your brother's coming from and why he would be so mad that you're bailing out at the last second on the day of the wedding. I mean, that is beyond rude. That is seriously so messed up, and that would really make me very angry if that happened to me. You're supposed to be a groomsman at this wedding. You can't just bail on it like that and not expect some kind of backlash. Now, that's not to say that I don't understand where you're coming from. I mean, you wanted to support your wife and your baby, but like seriously, you left your brother out hanging dry. That is seriously not okay. Now, don't get me wrong, the comment from your mom is absolutely insane. For her to be like, wow, the wife is supposed to watch the kid. Like, that's such an awful way to think about raising kids, it's not even funny. But regardless of what she said or anything like that, I really think it was an awful idea to bail on your brother at the last possible second. Like, there was no kind of like lead up to this. You couldn't have said said something in advance to try and set something up, it really seems like you waited until the last second and said, sorry, I'm not going to show up. Like, what are you doing? You promised you would be there. This is not some casual get-together. Your brother is getting married, and you're one of the groomsmen for the wedding. Honestly, I think with all things considered, I think the fact that you dropped out of the wedding at the last second, while also not even trying to find a babysitter while your wife got some sleep, that in my opinion was incredibly uncalled for and really does make you the jerk. You could have called a babysitter. You could have called somebody to watch your child so that your wife can sleep and you can still fulfill your commitments. Because guess what? At the end of the day, you were committed to your brother's wedding, and to not show up in the way that you did honestly was an awful thing to do. My boyfriend and his family all think that I'm ugly, and even though I really like my boyfriend, I'm now at a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I first want to say that I hesitated to share this, but I just need to get this off my chest. I'm a 28-year-old female, and I started in a new relationship with my boyfriend. He's incredibly handsome and truly a wonderful person. Things have been going well as we've introduced ourselves to each other's families. That is, until an incident that happened yesterday. I was at home working on a project while he visited his nearby grandparents. When he returned, he shared what he thought was a funny conversation with them, but it turns out his aunt had seen us while we were grocery shopping. Now, I had never met this woman, and my boyfriend didn't notice her, but she described me as a girl who seemed nice but was really ugly. His grandparents, who I've also never met, went on to suggest that she might have been shocked to see him, a handsome guy, with someone like me. He told me this story all while laughing, which really hurt, and when I asked how he responded, he simply said, well, I told them that you're very nice to me indeed. This has kind of shattered my self-esteem, to be honest. I've been working on my self-confidence in therapy for months, trying to love and accept myself, and now I feel like all that progress has been in vain. I'm crushed thinking that my boyfriend, who I thought found me attractive and desirable, somehow agreed with their sentiment. I feel unwanted and absolutely terrible. I realize I'm fortunate to be with him, as he is a 9 and I often feel like a 3 on my best days, but I always hope that he would find me desirable regardless. I don't want to create unnecessary conflict due to my insecurities, so I'm just sharing my feelings here, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. This seriously sounds awful. Like, I can't imagine being with someone and considering them my partner in life, and then they turn around and agree with their extended family that no, you're not good looking. Like, this guy didn't even try to defend you. He just said that you're nice to him and something along those lines. Like, what in the world is happening right now? Does he even love you in the first place? Because what you've described really does not sound like love at all. And you know what? I don't think this guy's a 9. He might be a handsome guy or something like that, but it's clear that his personality and his soul is absolutely a 1. This guy did not stand up for you. He didn't come to your defense or honor your name in any kind of way. He let his aunt and extended family basically trash you. He let them call you ugly and then laughed about it while retelling the story to you. That does not sound like a good person. He does not sound like this Mr. Wonderful you're claiming to be. His personality and dismissive nature is a massive red flag. Honestly, I'm kind of blown away that he even told you about the exchange in the first place. Like, if somebody said something awful about somebody I loved, especially somebody I was in a relationship with, I would tell them to buzz off and back off. I wouldn't then go laughing to my girlfriend and be like, oh man, you're never gonna believe what my extended family said about you. Like, that is honestly so unacceptable and you do not deserve that. So truly, your boyfriend does not sound like a very kind person, because he is letting all of this slide. And any boyfriend who actually cared about their girlfriend would have stood up for you and said enough is enough. My entitled sister-in-law constantly makes me watch her child anytime I have any kind of get-together with my extended family. And now, as a result, I feel entirely left out, completely ostracized from the rest of my extended family, and left alone with a kid that isn't even mine. And I'm so frustrated by this, I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So first of all, I just wanted to get this off my chest. I've been with my husband, who I'll call John for the sake of the story, for over 4 years, and we dated long distance the entire time. Well, we finally brought an end to it last month when I moved in with him and his parents. His parents are incredible and I love them. John has one older sister who I will call Emily. Emily has a husband who I'll call Joe, and they have 2 children, a little boy who I will call Leo and a little girl who I will call Amy. I have met Emily and Joe only a handful of times, despite visiting them in the past at least once each visit, and now that I've been living here the past month. In each instance, Amy and Leo are always there because they are just so young. Leo is approaching 3 years old and I love him to pieces. He is sweet as can be and imaginative. I truly love playing with him and making him laugh, but with all that that said, there have been some issues. I knew when my sister-in-law was pregnant that I would never get to have a real relationship with her. It saddened me, but I was overjoyed that she was finally getting the family she dreamed of. Since creating her family, I have the strong impression from Emily that having Joe, Leo, Amy, my husband, and their parents around, she feels like her family is complete. She's happy, and she doesn't need anyone else in the equation. And that means that she doesn't need me. Let me be clear. Emily is sweet and kind to me and has never been mean or rude. There have, however, been minor issues between us. Two examples are of her being jealous of my wage and the other of her having a fight with my husband when she over-inserted herself by asking imposing questions about our plans for the future. After that situation too, by the way, she made out that she might not actually attend our wedding, but in the end, she ultimately showed up. According to my husband and his mother, Emily has a darker side. She's jealous, selfish, and only wants the spotlight for herself. Truthfully, I can see the hints of this. I have this feeling that she wants my husband to be happy since he is her brother, but she doesn't see me as part of the family. Rather, I'm a tool to ensure a portion of her family's happiness. Emily hardly ever asks me questions. In the entire time I've known my husband, I think our longest conversation was truly like 5 minutes, and I have spoken to Joe even less. When there are family get-togethers, Leo wants to be with me and to play with me non-stop, and they just let him. This results in the entire family getting to speak, relax, as well as bond together, while I have to entertain their son for hours on end with no break. I don't get to participate in the discussion, let alone listen to anything that is said, especially because Leo likes to play in different parts of the house while the family is all gathered in the living room. It's like this whenever I go to visit my sister-in-law's house. Leo only ever wants to play with me and me alone. Nobody else can ever be involved. Clearly, she must accept me to some extent to trust me to play with her son, but she also won't interact with me at all. She expects me and my husband to also pitch in with her family, but never does she ever offer to return the favor. We walk her somewhat neglected dog very often, and my husband and their family have even built a massive extension on their house, but they never paid them for that. At any time where I'm around Leo, even for just a quick visit, I become his one-woman show. It may also be worth noting I'm significantly younger than my sister-in-law, and I'm younger by about 10 years. With the attention always on Emily's life and her needs, it feels like the entire family revolves around her. Honestly, I feel so iced out, and I feel like I'll never really be a part of the extended family at all. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, I completely understand where you're coming from, and I just don't blame you for feeling left out. When it comes to Leo, in my opinion, I would say hi to the kid, I would give him a big hug, and then I would go join the adults and spend time with them. Listen, you are not that kid's nanny. You do not have to be dragged off to have playtime for hours on end just so mom and dad can do whatever they want, and all at your expense as well. Like they literally are treating you as some kind of nanny or some kind of like babysitter when you definitely did not sign up for that last I checked. So I think if anything, it's time to start asserting yourself. And this doesn't have to be any kind of like slight against you or anybody else in the family. You can literally just say, no, I don't want to play right now, and then bring that kid back to his mom. And guess what? If she doesn't like that, then she can get up off of her butt and take care of her child. Because guess what? It's her kid, not yours. At the end of the day, you are an adult. You have every right to sit with the adults and not let this kid drag you away from them. And your sister-in-law has no power over you too, by the way. It doesn't matter that she's 10 years older than you. You are an adult in this situation, and you are under no obligation to babysit Leo. An entitled Karen gets violent at a haunted house that I worked at, all because she didn't want to follow the rules. And as a result, she ended up getting kicked off the property, all while humiliating herself in the process. And I've honestly never been more stunned by somebody's entitlement in my life. Here's what happened. So I've been working in haunted houses since 2019. It's a job I look forward to working every single year. Between the chance to make people scream or laugh or generally just freak out without any repercussion, it's honestly a good time, and I still have the chance to put some of my safety training to use. For example, if you're 1 foot in the door and sobbing, you are clearly not having fun, making you a risk to yourself and others. So it's part of my job to pull you aside while my room 2 partner entertains the rest of the group. I break character, I calm you down, and I explain for starters that everyone here is an actor and nothing can hurt you, and also state that there's no shame if they can't move forward because we want you to have fun. We offer you the chance to stay or go, and ask if you would like a member of staff to wait with you if all of your friends are going ahead, so that you're not standing alone outside. Of course, for safety's sake, we have several rules. No children under the age of 12, no bad substances or alcohol, no cursing cursing or foul language, which is a tricky one because obviously if you get freaked out and you start swearing, that's pretty normal, but cussing out one of our actors is absolutely not okay. And these are just basic things to keep in mind. We have also minors that work here, so we ask that people please just be nice. But there's one rule that we have, the one that gets constantly ignored and is possibly the most dangerous, is to not touch anything. We have fragile props and electrical equipment that you could break or even hurt yourself on. Also, the actors are people, and you could hurt them as well. And we as actors can't touch you either. And we do it that way because we don't want the liability. For the most part, it's a good system. However, we do get the occasional freak out punch thrown our way, and we have codes in the haunted house to hold our guests in one room to give management time to make sure any laid out actors don't need some kind of medical assistance. Now, all this setup is to say that the job is a lot of fun, but it does come with some potentially high stakes physically, mentally, and emotionally. However, because they know this, management has given us essentially a blank check to call them to remove guests who are behaving poorly. Now, in any case, last night was the final night for haunting for the season. It started more or less as normal, and my partner and I were bopping right along, sending people through, warning the people who needed to be warned, etc. Overall, it was a pretty reasonable and calm night. That is, until everything devolved into chaos. It started with a group of 5 teenagers, full of boys and girls, somewhere between the ages of 13 and 15. They seemed normal. The only thing that we noted about them was that another girl came in a little belatedly, then went back out to come in with her mother and another girl her age. We didn't really think much of it. We sent them on their way and then brought in the next group. The mother in the following group was, surprise, surprise, our Karen for the evening. Now, she didn't look like it much, and this was right up until she decided to touch one of our props with her umbrella. It was raining after all, and there's no coat check, so she got to bring it in. So overall, she didn't act like she was going to be a problem, but because she was touching things, she got the same dressing down that everyone else got by my partner. The character was a hothead, and she yells at you for rule violations. It's part of the act and the best way to get people to listen and follow rules usually. However, this entitled Karen decided to push her luck by walking over to my partner and putting her umbrella against my partner's collarbone. My partner yelled at her to not touch her, because of course she did, and Karen looked absolutely livid, spitting out a disgusted phrase of saying, "Are you serious?" When she was told yes, that this wasn't a bit, and that her behavior was unacceptable, she started to storm out, taking the girls with her. My partner and I followed. After all, we assumed she misunderstood. We attempted to explain that she could go through, she just couldn't go about touching things or people. Now, before I go any further, here's a bit more background that you need to know. Room 1 is a bit more like a long, double S curve hallway. It's got corners you go around, and there's places for the actors to stand, sit, crouch, whatever. But it's narrow. 2 people might be able to walk side by side, but they'd have to be pretty little. Now, I myself, personally, I'm a pretty thick woman. I'm not going to get into the details, but that's just the honest truth. If I stand correctly, I can easily fill that whole walking path. My partner is also decent sized, though not as large as me. The Karen in question is about my partner's size, but almost a whole foot shorter than me, so she's barely scraping 5 feet tall, if that. Suffice to say, there wasn't a lot of room, but in spite of us 3 being larger people, I had space to step back and let her through. However, as she huffed around to prepare to go by me to go back into the haunted house, she raised both of her arms and body checked me into the wall, a purposeful passive-aggressive shove. So I screamed at her. I raised my voice as high as it would go. I told her not to touch me and that she needed to get out right now. This Karen looked at me in shock, as if I was out of my mind. How dare I speak to her like that? How could anyone be so rude in front of her children? But my partner backed me up, and the Karen left with a quickness, taking her child with her, just in time for us to get a code red rum from upstairs. The code red rum from our haunted house means that a guest has become violent and punched one of our actors. I found out later that the group of teens associated with the lady pushed one of our minor actors to the ground and punched her in the face. Now, this actress was already nervous to be there, partially because of the acting, and also because the house is actually haunted. Whether you believe in that or not, it can get kind of freaky. So I can only imagine how she feels right now. Hopefully I'll see her next week and make sure that she's okay. While my partner went to check on the injury, I did a little damage control outside with the line, thanking our guests for their patience and also asking them to continue as such because of the emergency. In spite of the cold and wet, most people were happy to wait so we could make sure our actor was safe. So I know what you're thinking. What happened to the entitled Karen? For starters, First, she went to our ticket taker to complain. Our ticket taker, bless her heart, called one of the two owners over to talk to her. Of course, she lied after my partner got her side of the story out, saying she never even touched her, claiming that all she touched was the skull on the desk. But she slipped up and admitted that she just rested the umbrella against her chest, and that was more than enough for our manager to call her out on her lie. She also came back later and tried to complain to one of our maintenance men, saying that we, my partner and I, were rude to her, and this maintenance man, just like the ticket taker, ended up calling one of the owners. And obviously, real shocker here, she got the same owner, who essentially said to her, "I'll talk to you, but let's take a walk first." And apparently, her youngest daughter also called the maintenance guy a complete jerk during this process as well. So it looks like she takes up after her mother. The police ended up not being called, but my partner and I are split about what kind of future we wish for her. Personally, I hope she has a come to Jesus moment where she realizes that she's being a massive jerk and turns her life around. But my partner hopes that she suffers a lifetime of watching everyone else around her get everything that they wanted, while she just gets left behind. Either way though, the rest of the night was fine, and I'm already looking forward to next year so I get to do this one more time. Wow, that is a crazy situation. Like, I can't imagine coming to a haunted house and having this bad of an attitude. Like, why show up at all if you're gonna be aggressive and start doing things you know you're not supposed to do? Like, that just takes away from the fun of the haunted house in the first place. If you're prone to stress and you're just a massive jerk, then maybe you should just stay home. Like, it's really okay not to show up if you're gonna be a jerk. No one's gonna want you there in the first place if that's how you're gonna act, and everyone's gonna have a better time if you don't show up. I'm also willing to bet that this entitled Karen absolutely would have used that umbrella to hit somebody in the head. I mean, sure, it was raining outside, and she brought an umbrella to try and stay dry, but I'm absolutely convinced after the way she acted previously that it would have taken one scare for this lady to raise that umbrella and start swinging it around like some kind of sword at these actors. I mean, she already hockey checked the original poster. Who's to say she wouldn't try and do that halfway through the haunted house? But regardless, good for the original poster for standing up for themselves. This entitled Karen's behavior was absolutely unacceptable, and hopefully by next year, this lady doesn't show up again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My best friend is blaming me for her boyfriend cheating on her, claiming that I wasn't a good friend in believing her when she said that her boyfriend was cheating, and that it's all my fault and that she'll never forgive me. And now at this point, I don't know if I'm the jerk or not, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So, to start things out, my best friend has long suspected her boyfriend of almost 8 years is cheating on her. We are 22, and nearly everyone in our friend group kind of thought she was being a little bit crazy because her boyfriend seemed like a great guy, so we always just tried to talk her down, tell her to trust him, he's in a busy program at work and things will get better. Well, she was heartbroken when he told her that he had fill-in duty as a cop on Saturday night and couldn't do the couple costume she planned for them. I got invited to a party hosted by a coworker last minute on Saturday and told my friend it would be good for her to just go and get out instead of doom scrolling. So we went, and it was a huge party, and we didn't really know anybody, but we had a blast dressed up at the last minute as a bunch of vampires. At about 1 o'clock in the morning, her boyfriend sort of just appeared in the crowd, and when I saw the red football jersey, my heart sank, because about a minute later, a girl dressed up like Taylor Swift came up and went ahead and held his hand. My friend saw it, and she immediately ran for a bathroom sobbing. In the bathroom, she went from pleading with God that this isn't real to straight up just having rage and then back again. I told her we needed to leave, but she said no, telling me that she had to confront him. I then asked her if she's going to confront him. Was she going to do something that would end her up in jail? She looked at me and said, well, maybe, and I could tell that she was serious. I said to her we had to leave, but she said no. I told her to wait, and I went to find my coworker just to try and help me make her leave. We ended up dragging her out, and she made such a scene that her boyfriend finally noticed that she was at the party, and he took off like a scared rabbit. We got to the house and she started pounding shots, so I grabbed her keys and tried to get her to go to bed, but she kept screaming about how everyone's ruining her life, including me. Finally, she fell asleep, but she woke up hungover and angry that I didn't let her find out what was going on. I said we knew what was going on, this guy was absolutely cheating. She then called me a horrible friend for not believing her for the past few weeks, and I said I was so sorry, but she said I'm a major jerk for making her leave because she could have caught him in the act and then made a clean break. But I said that she was scaring me with how she was talking in the bathroom. She said she's an adult and can make her own choices. is. She then said it's going to be a long time before she can forgive me, and then she left. And I think she blocked me on literally everything. I honestly feel bad for the whole situation, and I feel bad that I may have made the wrong decision. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I do not personally think you're the jerk at all. Like seriously, you were removing a drunk friend who was upset and was not handling the situation well. Like when you asked her if she was gonna do something that would end her up in jail, she gave you a maybe. And it's like, I'm sorry, that's not one of the answers. Like the answer is either yes or no. It's not you saying, well, I might hit him in the face. Like that's unacceptable. I'm sorry, that is not okay. If a friend of mine said that, I would probably do the same thing and be like, okay, we gotta get you out of here. And also, it's not like the boyfriend didn't see her getting dragged off as it is. Like he knows for a fact he's in deep water and he has no way of getting out of this without getting in trouble. Like this guy screwed up big time. There's no good excuse for his actions, and obviously he was completely cheating on her. Like this guy literally showed up to the party dressed up as Taylor Swift's boyfriend. Like come on, how could you possibly do that? Now when it comes to you not believing your friend about her boyfriend cheating, honestly, who could have predicted this? Like this is not your fault, by the way. Your friend is clearly upset about the situation, so it seems like she's trying to blame you for all of this happening. Like listen, even if you did believe her, this guy would still be cheating on her. And it also sounds like at the time that she didn't have any proof that he was cheating. So it's kind of weird for her to be like, wow, I knew he was cheating and this is your fault. Like what are you talking about? Whether the original poster believed you or not didn't change the outcome. Any reasonable friend would be there to listen to their friend, but also try and help them see that maybe they're not cheating. Let's look at the silver lining or something like that. I know that if my friend came up to me and they didn't provide any evidence that their significant other is cheating on them, while also adamantly claiming that they are cheating on them, I probably would have done the same thing. I would try to talk them off of the emotional cliff that they're currently walking on, because there's no point in wallowing in all this weird self-hatred, all because of something you're not sure of. And sure, I get it. Her suspicions at the end of the day were confirmed, but that's not anybody's fault. Nobody could have predicted that, and honestly, the fact that she's blaming that on you is honestly so toxic, and you don't deserve that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for yelling at my friend after she kept saying that she was poor, despite the fact that she lives a very privileged life? Here's what happened. I'm a 23-year-old female, and I'm disabled, and I live on a pension. And I have this friend who's 25, we'll call her Lily, that's not her real name, and she is also on a pension. We have very different disabilities, but the specifics aren't really relevant here. In our country, there's a program that helps fund quality of life type of stuff for disabled people. Stuff like transportation, social activities, etc. I'm not eligible for this program due to not being a citizen. I migrated as a toddler and applied for citizenship at 18, but was denied because of my health status. But on the other side of this, Lily does use this program. We have different life circumstances. I live alone, not by choice, while Lily lives with her parents and does not pay for her own living expenses. We get roughly the same amount of money from pension regardless. Lily invited me to an escape room this week, and I declined because I can't afford it. She said it was fine and that she understands how hard being poor was because she had spent over $100 on plushies and couldn't afford to do other activities that she wanted to do before she got paid. She says stuff like, oh, I'm just so poor, and other stuff like that a lot, and I usually let it slide, but this time I just lost it. I told her to stop saying that she's poor. I also said that until the food bank employees know you by name, you can't say anything about being poor. I said a few other things that I can't quite remember, but regardless, I did not sugarcoat this. She is now upset with me and wants me to apologize for being a jerk about it. I get that she's not rich by any means, but I feel like her acting like she's on the same level of poverty as I am is also a jerk move. I'm definitely a bit jealous of her lifestyle being better than mine, all due to the circumstances, but I don't begrudge her of any of that. I just wish that she wouldn't compare overspending on hobbies to not being able to afford medical bills because you decided to eat that week. I can't tell if she's being childish and insensitive or if I'm being a huge jerk. She's a lovely person other than being a bit sheltered, so I don't want to lose our friendship over this fight, and I plan to apologize for being harsh about it, but I don't think I'm in the wrong here. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all. Like, I totally understand where you're coming from. She is better off financially and she keeps complaining about being poor, but in reality, you're the one that actually knows what it's like to be poor. You've had to choose between medical bills or even eating that week, and I can completely understand why you would get so frustrated. And sure, you had an outburst, and maybe there's a situation where you can apologize for screaming at her, but also explain that the way she was talking really upset you, and it seriously hurt your feelings about the way she talked. Like, she is incredibly privileged. She has all this stuff going for her, and she's seriously gonna sit there and pretend pretend like she doesn't, like that's honestly insane to me. So truly, with all things considered, I don't think you're the jerk. I don't think you did anything wrong. And honestly, your friend is being incredibly awful. Am I the jerk for not wanting to pay for unnecessary food and other items after my girlfriend bought a bunch of these things on a whim? Because at this point, my girlfriend is furious that I'm not willing to pay, and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I live with my partner in the United Kingdom. For rent, bills, and groceries, we split the cost 50-50. My girlfriend tends to go grocery shopping with her parents when they go, and this is a way for them to spend more time with them. I offer to go, but she says she's fine going. We make a list prior to her going and have a budget that we try to stick to. And sometimes it's hard if food goes up in price, but we both understand that that can happen, and we're both fine paying a bit more due to the increased prices. The problem I had last week is my girlfriend went shopping with her mom and ended up buying a lot of things that weren't on the list. Now, some of this was for both of us, but it was still things that I did not particularly want, and some of it was just for her. She then told me the price of the shop, and it was about $25 more expensive. We do our grocery shopping every 2 weeks, so if she keeps shopping like this, it will be an additional $50 a month, and I don't think that I should be paying for that. I told her I didn't really want to pay the extra just because she decided to buy a lot of things that were not on the list. Well, she got annoyed and mentioned that most of it was for both of us, but I just pointed out that you can't buy something for someone else and just expect them to pay without asking them before getting it. She said it's unfair to expect her to go over the complete increase because it might have her short on money this month. I just repeated that I shouldn't be expected to pay more because she saw something extra that she wanted. I said that she should have just called me out before buying them to check if I was okay with it, and she said that she shouldn't have to run every purchase by me, but I just said that if it involves my money, then yeah, she absolutely does. She got annoyed and said that we were supposed to be a team and that I'm being incredibly selfish. So am I the jerk for refusing to pay more for the grocery shopping? What should I do? Honestly, I can kind of see where the original poster's coming from. It seems like money's really tight, so they can't afford to make all these unnecessary purchases and still be expected to pay for everything that comes along with it, especially if they didn't want it themselves. The original poster actually went on to say that it was a lot of stuff that was unnecessary. It was food that they don't eat and alcohol that they don't drink, as well as skincare products that the original poster absolutely did not ask for. Like, it sounds like this is just a bunch of stuff the girlfriend wanted, and now she's trying to make the boyfriend pay for it. But guess what? Money is not growing on trees right now, and from the sounds of it, it really seems like even $50 extra is going to be biting into this person's budget. So truly, I don't blame them for getting upset and being like, wait, what are you doing? I can't be expected to pay for this, right? So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. I think you have every right to decide what you do and don't do with your money, and it really seems like your girlfriend is not respecting that. My fiance told me that he's going to be spending Christmas with his family overseas, and once I found out that I wasn't invited, I felt so hurt and absolutely shocked, and now I seriously don't know what to do. My fiance and I have been together for 4 years. He was born and raised in the United Kingdom, but moved here 8 years ago. I'm from the United States, I have no children, and I plan to marry him next summer. Today, while eating dinner, he casually tells me that he's going to England for Christmas. I was completely blindsided and surprised by this information, as it is the first I've ever heard of such plans. I was not extended an invite, and he told me that he made the plans ages ago, and that the trip is in 17 days. He has one nephew who's 3 years old, and a large family in the United Kingdom, so I understand the desire to visit. He has no family in the United States, and I have a very small family of about 3 people who live 3,000 miles away in California. I had such an enormously sad and surprised reaction, not only because I wasn't invited, but also because I essentially realized I would be spending the day alone. For the past 4 years, we've celebrated Christmas in very intimate yet special ways. We splurge on fancy cheese, roast a duck, and decorate a tree. Each year, I search for a special ornament that ties to a moment that we had or some kind of inside joke. We even dress our cats up with bow ties. Another reason why I find this decision to be heartless is that I'm fairly new to the area that we live in, and although I know some acquaintances through my industry that I'm in, I don't have any friends that I'm close to that I can spend the day with. I love Christmas and would consider it my favorite holiday, and this is all because of traditions. I am so upset and I can't sleep. Should I go to California and be with my borderline toxic mother just so I'm not alone? Should I stay home and roast a duck for the cats and I? Should I go on vacation and go surfing? Honestly, I'm so hurt by this and I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, this is so unacceptable. Like, this guy's your fiance, right? He really should be able to communicate when he's going out of the country to visit family. Like, it really blows my mind that he wouldn't try to invite you and bring you along. Like, that really does seem super sketchy, and that is so unacceptable. You two are getting married. There's really no good reason for him not to invite you. So truly, I'm so sorry this happened. Your fiance is completely out of line for not inviting you or even letting you know about this, because now you're gonna have to spend Christmas alone, and there is no one to blame for that situation except for your fiance. My toxic, entitled mother is threatening to evict me from her house, all because I'm finally refusing to take her garbage anymore, and I'm now deciding to stand up for myself. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So I have a pretty manipulative, entitled, and toxic mother. I nearly passed away at birth, but thanks to the doctors that helped me, I ended up living. At first in my life, I had major behavior issues due to mental and physical disabilities, which included pitching fits and biting people. This was mainly in elementary school, and I slowly grew out of it, only having slight relapses in high school, unfortunately. I was picked on a lot and ended up growing to be extremely awkward. What made it worse was the family dynamic, where most of the time I was with my mom and my stepdad. When he passed away is the earliest I remember my mother changing into this mean and spiteful person. She was verbally awful towards me, including yelling and cussing me out. She would manipulate me whenever I tried to stand up for myself, and was all out awful towards me to the point where I became depressed and at times got very unwell mentally, causing terrible things to happen to me. And I didn't know why I felt the way that I did. I was confused and scared at times, and ended up growing to have high anxiety. I never had a job because of it, but I did whatever I could to make up for my joblessness. I'm 22 now, and I have attempted to get a job a lot through the years, but have been unable to find one that best fits my disabilities and that I can do, though the constant anxiety has made it more difficult. Now, just to give a list of the slight things that I've done for her, I do my regular chores such as taking care of the cat, doing the dishes, taking the trash out, etc. I would do minimal things as well, such as cooking or making almost every meal, helping her with whatever she needs, as well as giving her drinks and making her lunches occasionally. I would literally do everything she asked of me the best I could. I did mess up a lot, and she would let me know immediately when I did, which often led to her talking bad to me in some kind of way. I ignored it for the most part and took the punishment of being yelled at because I knew it was my fault. It was always my fault. I slowly came to realize through extensive research who she was, finding out about toxic relationships and manipulation through various means. I still battled at whether I was wrong or not because I was prone to forgetfulness and misunderstanding things easily. Then it finally happened. I started going to a family member about it on my dad's side, and one by one they started telling me their experiences with her. I was so happy I wasn't alone anymore. So happy that I had people to go to about this without being afraid. What made it better to some degree is that due to some struggles, my brother and his girlfriend had to ask my mom if they could move in. They got to see that I was right, as not even a month in, she showed her true colors. I ended up learning a lot from them, which was never easy to listen to about her. She lied to them, often made rude comments, and would talk in a self-righteous tone. I started paying attention more when I did something for her to discover how entitled she really was. I started attempting to stand up for myself, calling her out for things that she did against me. I mainly only talked to her about her tone and how she doesn't use basic manners, like saying please or thank you. I left the insults alone, seeing that if I couldn't get her to talk to me without some shred of dignity, without a constant spiteful or entitled tone, then why would I try to fight against such insults? All this arguing made me exhausted, but when she threatened to backhand me in the car and left me roughly half a mile away in 80 to 90 degree weather without so much as a drop of water or my cane, I ended up eventually giving up on our relationship. Because before then, even after everything that I've heard, I still was desperate to save our relationship. I was hurt, I was betrayed, and I needed to get away for a few days. And so I ended up contacting my friend and stayed with her for a weekend. And when I did that, everything changed. I didn't know that what she did was illegal, but apparently I was considered a vulnerable adult due to my disabilities, and if I didn't have money or my friend, who knows if I was going to have a heat stroke and pass out or flare up bad enough where I couldn't walk. 2 weeks ago, I also had an ear infection, which made me go to the ER. I was in horrible stabbing pain with an ear so swollen that it was completely shut. I mean, I couldn't hear out of that ear at all, which was a really weird experience. Every day during the ear infection, she would push me to do things, especially with making breakfast at 6 in the morning. Well, I made it clear to her that I wouldn't do that while I had this ear infection, but I did make her coffee each each morning, as that didn't involve a lot of standing. She kept saying she would do the dishes, which in turn piled up during the week due to my inability to stand for long periods of time. I was suffering from vertigo after all. Instead, she would come up with excuses, such as using her arthritis, and saying that she didn't know when my brother and his girl would be home, because they shower when they get home, despite her absolutely having the ability to just ask them. I ended up spending 3.5 hours doing the dishes after I was healed enough to do so. It was torment that could have easily been avoided if she didn't lie. And yeah, I made it clear I was upset at the way she treated me during the ear infection, but she didn't care. Then this week it finally happened. A moment I hoped I was just being overly anxious for. I finally broke. All that I have mentioned so far was only the tip of the iceberg, and the bird became heavy enough that I lost my ability to care what happens. 2 days ago, she came back from a short trip and expected the supper the couple only bought for them and me. Immediately, she starts complaining about the steak not being done the way she likes it and makes me microwave the steak. So I just shrugged it off and moved on, while also going to sit down afterwards with my food in a chair. Now, I usually would sit on the love seat, but there was a pile of clothes I didn't feel like dealing with, so I sat in a seat a tiny bit further away that was just an old recliner that we had, but I didn't care because I was still eating with my family. My mom, however, really did care, and she snapped at me to get up and move the clothes so that I could sit next to her. And this was also shortly after she went to the kitchen for something and said out loud, "Would everyone stop acting like they're better than me, please?" Now, when she demanded that I sit next to her, this prompted me to say in a low voice, "You do not have to talk to me like that." Now, when I said that, she responded with something slick that I just ignored because I really wanted to move on, except the way that she snapped at me made my anxiety spike. She noticed immediately after I sat down and asked if I was okay or if I was sick, as if she didn't just snap on me and deflect me defending myself. That's when I got up with my food and told her I'm sick of her attitude as I left to go calm myself down in my room. And this was also in front of the other couple as well. I turned on a show on my computer, something funny to calm me down and try and wash the anxiety away. Unfortunately though, the peace was short-lived as my mom came into my room and tried to force me to talk to her about what happened, blaming this on her period and asking what my problem is, even though I had already made it clear multiple times why I was upset at her. I told her that I don't want to have this conversation, and I attempted to put my headphones back on, making it clear that I would like to be left alone. She decided to sprawl both of her hands on my laptop to close it, which I realize now that the reason she did it that way was to prevent me from accessing my laptop and force me to face her. I got up and said I wasn't dealing with this, taking my food and phone to go outside. She then grabs my arm, which startles me, and makes me drop my food, which results in us yelling at each other. She tried her best to corner me in my room as I tried to get away from her and make her leave me alone. That is, until I eventually walked out with a full-blown anxiety attack. Luckily, my brother came to my rescue and helped calm me down and sneak me back to my room, which very ironically made her worry that I was out at night and threatened to call the police on me since I was a vulnerable adult after all. I eventually let myself be known that I was home because I didn't want her to get the police involved. I absolutely refused to talk to her. However, even if I did, she would just manipulate and ridicule me. I didn't want to deal with that anymore as my mental health could no longer take it. I was broken and I needed to be apart from her. Despite me making it clear to her that I need space, she still insisted that I talk to her about what is expected of me. We have been talking over Gmail, and even on there she's being awful and manipulative. And now she wants me out of her house, saying that she's gonna send an eviction notice when I have nowhere else to go. But I'm refusing to give in. She infiltrated the one space I was supposed to feel safe in and came across as threatening. I was and am right now so done. She is now using everything in the book to try and make me feel bad, including calling me awful and saying that she has a bruise, likely from when I pushed her out of the way to get out of my room, and even going as far as to say repeatedly that I'm mentally ill and that I'm also violent, and that she feels threatened when she was the one who got in my face, grabbed me, and cornered me. I'm honestly so done, and seriously, at this point, I don't know what to do. Honestly, this is so unacceptable. She is treating you like an indentured servant and basically making it so you have to do everything around the house. She's gaslighting you, she's manipulating you, and now she's becoming like physically aggressive. That is seriously not okay, and I can only imagine how awful this must be. Now, with all of that in mind, I think it's time to get some kind of help here. Maybe researching some kind of like adult protective services or some kind of like family service, like Like, you clearly qualify as a vulnerable adult, and the person you thought would be able to take care of you is clearly treating you like garbage, so maybe it's time to try and get that process going sooner than later. I know if I was in your shoes, I would be looking to get out of that house and move out of there. And sure, you don't have a job and you don't have a lot of things set up in your life, but I'm pretty sure there's people who can help you in this situation. So honestly, I really hope this all works out for you, and hopefully you are able to get away from your awful mother. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amIthejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for signing away a house to my baby mama even after finding out that she put me on child support? Here's what happened. So I first want to start off by saying that the mortgage is in her name, but she put my name on the deed when our son was born. We were pretty much in agreement that it was her house. 4 years later, and I keep our son on the weekends. Well, 3 months ago, the baby mama lost her job. She had me sign a piece of paper that said, in handwriting too by the way, that I no longer live at this address because she can't get public assistance unless she has proof that we don't live together. My girlfriend, who works in child support, says that she's trying to put me on child support. The baby mama had always said that she'd never do that, but then my girlfriend showed me the statuses and I ran this by the baby mama, but she said that she withdrew the application when she found out. Weeks later, the baby mama says that she can't get mortgage assistance unless my name is off the deed. My girlfriend says that something seems a little bit off. Well, I signed the documents anyways, but my baby mama told me the signature wasn't valid, so we agreed to meet again just to re-sign it. The morning of, my girlfriend says to me, I just got an email that a letter addressed to you from the Department of Social Security is on its way. So I text the baby mama. She says that she got a call about it and was gonna tell me about it this evening, and says it's probably just a notice and that if she wanted me on it, she would have done it by now. Well, my girlfriend says that she is BSing and explicitly tells me not to sign the deed over. She says that I need to file for 50-50 custody. My girlfriend then tells me to call the Department of Social Services ASAP. My girlfriend then texts me an hour later with a voice memo from a representative from Public Housing Assistance saying I do not have to be off the deed for the baby mama to get mortgage assistance. So I call the DSS back and I find that the baby mama deliberately went and submitted the child support application. My girlfriend tells me to stop all contact with the baby mama and that this is now a legal issue. But none of this was consistent with what I knew about the baby mama. I called her up and she admitted to everything, but said that she didn't know about not having to have me off the deed. She said she is only using public assistance until next week, and then she's revoking the child support case. But none of that explained why she had to have me off the deed, nor why she deliberately put in a child support application. I stated that because I don't need to be off the deed, I will wait to sign it over. She then hit me with the following statement. Oh, so now you're trying to withhold my house from me? And you know what? Knowing her, if I upset her by not signing it, she would just keep me on child support permanently. So I signed over the house. My girlfriend argued that I shouldn't give up the only asset that may help pay off the child support one day. I asked my family and coworkers and they disagreed, saying trusting her is my best option and that it would be best to sign over the deed to keep the peace. My girlfriend said my baby mama controls me and that I am spineless and that I had no reason to give away the only asset I had. She even went all the way to say that she felt betrayed and that I chose to appease my baby mama over protecting our household finances. We have been fighting all weekend and I genuinely feel like I did the morally right thing, as well as the only thing that'll make my baby mama drop the child support case. So honestly, am I the jerk in the situation? What should I do? Okay, first and foremost, it seems like your girlfriend is accessing stuff she's not supposed to access, especially for the mother of your child. Like, that sounds incredibly sketchy. That was like the only thing going through my mind when I read that. Like, she's very clearly going into these files and being like, wow, she's about to do this to you. And that's like really weird. I would not want to know that information, let alone be around somebody who has that kind of information and uses it for her own good. I don't know, maybe this stuff is like public information and I might be wrong, but from the way this is described, it sounds really sketchy. But honestly, this is a messy situation. It sounds like the mother of your child really is some kind of like basket case who would probably go above and beyond anything you would expect just to get money from you for your child. So I kind of understand where you're coming from, where you're like, okay, just take the house, I don't want it. But also with that in mind, in my opinion, you absolutely should still be paying child support. Sure, get your name off the deed, do whatever you gotta do there. It's not your house and it's not your asset. But you know what? You absolutely should be supporting that child. It is yours after all, right? So honestly, it really seems like everybody everybody is being shady from like all angles. Your girlfriend is all up in your business, the mother of your child is doing really sketchy things, and it seems like you're trying to get out of child support by giving over the house. And that, in my opinion, is seriously not okay. My boyfriend hasn't paid me back yet for a trip we have planned, but also still wants to go on an expensive family trip that he cannot afford. And right now, I feel so totally lost, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my boyfriend and I moved in together into a condo last year after having 5 years in a long-distance relationship. He has a higher salary, but I work 1 full-time and 2 part-time jobs to make it work, which probably makes our income very equal. Now, this is his first time having to pay rent, so the world of budgeting is very new to him. Most months he is living down to the last dollar in his bank account. He has thousands of dollars in debt, unfortunately. We split rent and groceries 50-50, but I pay for all of the electricity and water bills. I don't have a lot of savings or day-to-day money either, but my extra job makes it easier. I also pay for most of our fun stuff, such as concert tickets or even a movie pass. Basically, if I want him to do things with me, either I pay for them or he won't be able to afford it, and I love spending time with him, so I really don't mind. I want to make things less stressful for him, even though we're all stressed out about money these days. Now, we have not been on a trip in almost 4 years, and the last time we were, it was with his family, and it was honestly horrible, but that's a story for another day. This year, I wanted to go somewhere, just me and him. It would just be for a couple of days over my birthday next month. Well, a few months ago, we discussed it, and I presented him a budgeting plan outlining how it could work. And what I planned out was basically the cheapest flights and accommodations that I could find. He agreed that it would be doable as long as I didn't expect a birthday present in addition to the trip, which of course I was completely fine with. So with all that in mind, I booked the trip. Almost as soon as it was organized, he started complaining and stressing about the money and how he could afford to do it. But it was too late and I couldn't change his ticket. He was miserable for weeks and it made me feel so sick. So I've paid for it all so far and have not asked for anything yet. He told me that he secretly wished a hurricane would happen just so it all would be canceled. At this point, I'm upset, and I've even told him that he doesn't have to come along, and he honestly is considering it. Anyways, it's been a nightmare, but a few days ago, his family sprung on him that they were planning a resort trip in January, and they wanted him to come along, and the cost will be over quadruple what our little trip would cost. He initially told them that he couldn't come, but now his sister is texting him, saying that he should try to make it work, and they'll lend him a bit of money if that'll help. Now the thing is, there's no way they'd be giving him enough that it will even come close to the trip cost. He'll end up stressing out like crazy and maxing out his credit card, and even then, I don't see how he'll have enough. But when I told him it's not a good idea, he got so mad at me and said I wasn't supportive. He said he's going to try and make it happen no matter what, and he wants me to come along too. Now, I'm so confused and I don't understand. He hasn't paid me for anything regarding our trip yet, and truly does not have the funds to float towards his family trip, which requires a down payment very soon. I mean, for someone who caused a huge fight over our trip, he sure is dedicated to making this one happen. I mean, I seriously could start crying. I pay for everything we do, covering thousands of dollars this year, and he is leaving me to pay for my birthday trip all by myself. But in the end, he can still find the money for this other trip that's only 2 months away. Honestly, this is so hurtful and it's so unacceptable, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, talk about incredibly shady. First and foremost, your boyfriend hasn't paid rent and he's what, 31 years old for context? Like seriously, what has he been doing his entire life? Like, I'm not trying to make fun of him or anything like that, but that's honestly incredibly surprising for me, and I can't believe that he's gone that long without paying rent. Also, in the scope of your relationship, it really does not sound like anything is 50-50. Like sure, you're splitting the rent and the groceries, but you're also paying for the electricity and the water bills. Like what is he doing with his extra money? You guys make the same amount of money, correct? Like it seems like he's taking advantage of the fact that you're willing to pay, while also complaining that he doesn't have enough money to do anything. Like where is his money going? And also, he only works 1 job. You work 1 full-time job and 2 part-time jobs just to make things work. And that's the only way for your income to be considered equal? Like seriously, this guy is not doing nearly enough to try and help out in this household. At least that's my opinion. Like it really seems like he's taking advantage of you because he knows that you will pay for it. And the other reason I believe that is by the way that he's reacting to this trip that you planned out. First and foremost, I think it was a massive mistake to pay for all of that right up front without getting something from him, like some kind of money or some kind of transfer into your account. That way he can be committed to this trip and not try to weasel his way out of it like he's trying to do right now. no. Like, look at the way he's reacting to you planning this out. It really seems like he's so upset that he has to pay you back that he's now beside himself and he doesn't know what to do. That is such a weird way to go about doing this, and it's so strange that he would get so upset about this trip. And obviously, it's not about the fact that you spent that money, but I really think it's about him not wanting to pay you back. That is honestly what I think is going on here, and that is so unfortunate. And that even connects with his family going on this trip randomly in 2 months. So he's not willing to go on the trip with you, but suddenly, all of a sudden, 2 months from now, he can somehow get the money necessary to go on a trip with his family? Like, what is going on right now? Like, this really seems super sketchy, and it doesn't seem like he's being honest with you. Like, I'm starting to think he has a lot more money than he's letting on, and he's just letting you, someone who's overworked and undervalued, just take care of all the logistics of a trip that now he suddenly doesn't want to go on. And I'm sure at this point, you know his finances. You know for a fact he can't afford this trip with his family all of a sudden out of nowhere. So for him to be like, yeah, I'm gonna go on this trip, it's fine. In my opinion, that's a massive red flag, and that is seriously so unfair to you. So truly, your boyfriend is being a massive jerk right now. He blatantly doesn't care that you're working 3 jobs, and he's also being incredibly lazy and entitled about his money. And in my opinion, you absolutely do not deserve to be treated like that in the slightest. My entitled stepmom is making fun of me and bothering me, all because I won't compromise my faith, claiming that I'm just delusional and that I'm just brainwashed for the things that I believe. And at this point, I really want to move out, and I'm honestly not sure what to do. Here's what happened. So honestly, I need to give some background context, as this is going to be required to fully understand my situation. I'm a 23-year-old male, and I have an older brother who's 26, and my mom was old school Catholic, and my dad was an atheist. My brother and I were raised Catholic, and my dad never minded. When I was about 11 years old, my parents got a divorce, and my dad ended up getting custody. Well, my mom changed after the divorce. My brother and I are no contact with her, and a little while after, my brother and I started being outspoken atheists just to stick it to my mom. In reality though, my brother was just coming into his own, and the church just didn't have a place in his life, and I was the kid brother who followed his bigger brother. My dad almost instantly remarried to a woman I affectionately called the witch as a kid, because I didn't know how my dad loved her without her putting a spell on him or something like that. She was rude, elitist, she was a gold digger, and a total Karen. My dad changed too because of her. He still loved us and he tried his best with us. I mean, I will defend to the last day that he was a good father. His only flaw was his taste in women, but he never really was the same and always curtailed to his wife. As a kid, I was plagued by night terrors. I mean, I barely slept through most of middle school. Of course, my stepmother's suggestion was medication and therapy. Nothing against it, but it wasn't what I needed. I know now I have trauma relating to my mother's awful behavior, as well as her encouraging my brother to do awful things. Well, one day I was searching through some old boxes, and I found my old communion cross gifted to me. Because of the nostalgia of a time where I actually had a family, I hung it onto my wall. After that, I slept like a baby for the first time in years. That was sophomore year of high school, and I realized that I just felt safe around Catholic symbols. It's not like anything else in that time of my life was comforting me, so I started escaping my home in the local church. The congregation accepted me, and I even became an apprentice with a blacksmith who went to the church. Around the start of my junior year, I was born again Catholic. I wore a cross that I forged myself every day. Now, on their face, my father and stepmother were supportive, and if Karen wasn't around, my dad genuinely supported me. He drove me to church and stuff like that, but my stepmother would ask me not to wear a cross out when there's guests over at the house, while also giving house tours to everybody that she would want, basically to show off how nice her house was. After I decorated my room with various religious items, she stopped showing off my room, which honestly I didn't mind. She also screamed at me if I ever dared leave my Bible anywhere outside my room, while also making snide comments towards me constantly. Now, at the age of 18, I enlisted and served 5 years in the Marines. I got home and I'm crashing in my old room. That is until my brother and I can rent an apartment together and I can start college. My stepmother introduced me to a daughter of her friends. She was pretty and nice when I met her, and I could tell the two mothers were trying to get us together, so I decided to just go with it. We went on 2 dates, and while we didn't really connect, I was having fun playing civilian, so I decided to keep going. But unfortunately, the friction started in the planning of the 3rd date over text messaging. The only day she was available was on Sunday, but I told her I was volunteering Sunday afternoon. She asked me if I could do it in the morning and try and have some kind of breakfast date, but I said that I was going to church. She said that she didn't know that I was religious, and I just replied by saying, yes, I am. And I even offered to see if she wanted to come and volunteer with me. I explained that I'm helping the church with a local fair, and local artists are selling work to raise money for the church. She was an artist, so I thought she would like it. She ended up declining, and then she stopped texting me. That was 2 days ago. And yesterday, I came back from a run to see my stepmother and this girl's mother having a brunch. I grabbed some water and had a very cordial conversation, and the topic of the third date came up, and they asked me why I wouldn't go. Now, at this point, I was confused, and I said I would go, I just had plans on Sunday, and we needed to find a new date while also explaining what I was doing. My stepmother then said in a half-annoyed voice, "Oh, you're still doing that?" Now, I learned from an early age that I can't even engage with her, so I just said to her, "Yes, I am." And I just walked away, wanting to let my frustrations out in another way. Well, apparently the mere mention that I was still in my religious phase gave that girl some kind of problem. Well, last night she knocked on my door and asked to talk, but she barged in before I could say no. Then she started talking to me about how a girl like that comes in once a lifetime, and I shouldn't be vindictive just because she doesn't share my delusions. Now that honestly really confused me when she said that, because I was the one who was ghosted, and I never did anything to be vindictive. So I asked what she meant, and she went on one of her "my voice is calm so I'm right" rants about how I should have canceled my plans to take her out that Sunday, and that just because my church says that men can treat women however they want, it doesn't mean that I should do the same. Now at that point, I just left the room. She's impossible to fight with, and if she gets angry, then it's honestly a complete nightmare to deal with. I mean, I learned that on Christmas Eve when I was kicked out and left in the cold when I was 14 years old. After that, I haven't heard the end of it from my stepmother, saying that I just lost a girl over myth, or that women don't like stuck-up men. And as per usual, my dad is staying out of it. As for the girl I was set up with, I really don't care. I mean, it's her choice, and honestly, I'm trying to ask out a childhood friend anyways. I think I was just being nice and taking her out, and also, I don't care that my family's atheist. They have every right to believe what they want. I mean, I served 5 years to protect that right, and I personally believe the worst sin one can commit is to deny someone their convictions. But it's honestly getting hard not saying something back. The rest of my family is either backing her or not getting into it. My step-aunts are sending me atheist articles and other gotcha pieces about how Sky Daddy doesn't exist. I'm literally the only member of the family that's not some kind of outspoken atheist. I mean, I'm already a black sheep for enlisting instead of going to some Ivy League college and not selling my soul to politics or business. I've asked them to stop, but my wishes are not being respected because they feel the need to reverse the brainwashing that I've apparently gone through. It's really getting annoying. I don't want to go low to no contact because I love my dad and they're apparently a package deal. Now, when it comes to my brother, he's the only one being rational and he's backing me up. He thinks the whole thing is stupid and is putting in more time looking for apartments for us so we can just leave the house. I'm not hopeful that they'll come around and accept me, but I'm not compromising my faith just because my stepfamily wants to be awful. And honestly, at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Your extended family are awful. I can't imagine coming after somebody all because of their religion. Like seriously, there's nothing wrong with someone saying, "Okay, I want to be Catholic now." Like the original poster is not hurting anybody. They're not going out of their way to attack anybody. They're just minding their own business and trying to worship and help out in the way they know how to do. It would be entirely different if this religion was causing some kind of like backlash, or it was like really destructive in some kind of way. Like that would be entirely different, and I would understand the step family being like, "Okay, we got to get you out of this." But honestly, this really seems like this is a private situation, and this is something you try to follow yourself while also basically keeping it to yourself. Like, why do they care what religion you're following? Is it seriously that big of a deal where they have to get involved and assume you're brainwashed? I can't stand when people say that about anyone who's religious, by the way. That doesn't make sense to me, and honestly, like, people can make their own decisions. Just because somebody has faith in a different way than you doesn't mean they're brainwashed just because they believe it, because that argument could be flipped on all the atheists in this guy's family that are treating him like garbage. But with all things considered, in my opinion, these people do not sound like good family members. Your stepmom sounds like a piece of work, and your father's a coward for not defending you more. I mean, he was supporting you as a kid, but now he's allowing his stupid stepwife to step in and treat you like garbage. And that is not okay in my opinion, and the fact that he's letting this slide is so unacceptable. So truly, I don't blame you for keeping your faith, and hopefully when you move out and have your own place, you can finally start your own life, because your extended family sound absolutely awful. And honestly, the sooner you get away from them, the happier I truly think you are gonna be. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for asking the lady sitting next to me at a concert to stop knitting? Here's what happened. So I went to a concert tonight at a seated venue to see a folk singer. The music is relatively tame and quiet and fairly emotional, and seeing this artist is a pretty immersive musical experience. Well, at least it is for me. I was really excited to see this particular show at a seated theater where it's easier to just focus on the music. I'd venture a guess that most of the people who would go to this type of show are going because they're emotionally invested in this person's music. The show starts and I notice the woman sitting directly next to me is knitting. I think to myself, well, that's odd, but I guess it's okay. But as the show went on, I kept finding myself so distracted by this knitting. I must have tried for a solid 30 minutes to ignore it, but the constant motion in my peripheral vision and the quiet clicking of the needles kept stealing my attention away from the show. After a while, I felt like I couldn't focus on the show at all, and all I could think about was whether I should try to politely say something or not. The woman was with a partner, and I noticed on their other side there were 2 to 3 open seats. So I finally worked up the courage to politely say something. Now, I thought the best and least disruptive way to do that was to write a note on my phone and show it to her. So that's exactly what I did. Here's what the note said. I'm sorry to ask, and I know this is probably ridiculous, but the knitting is really distracting me from enjoying the show. Would you mind either stopping or moving 1 seat over? Again, I'm so sorry. Now, I don't know. I assumed anyone who knitted in public, and especially somebody at this kind of show where it's really chill, was probably a generally chill person themselves. So I was not expecting the kind of negative reaction that followed. The woman gave me the nastiest look, let out an angry sigh, and then threw her hands up, dramatically stuffing her knitting stuff into her bag, and huffed and puffed to her partner, and then got up and completely left the show. I was so baffled by how angry she got, especially since I tried really hard to phrase this as politely as I could. I even considered that maybe there are reasons beyond my understanding why someone might not be able to sit still during a show and might need to keep their hands busy for some reason. I thought to myself, are they neurodivergent? Some kind of recovery or some other reason? So with all of that in mind, I really tried to avoid speaking up out of sensitivity. And again, it's why I included the suggestion that maybe she could just slide over instead of stopping completely. Now, I realize that knitting is definitely not the most disruptive thing a person could do at a concert, and I couldn't tell if me asking her to stop was unreasonable, and maybe I should have just sucked it up, but I thought I was polite about it, and I'm just still really shocked at how mad she got, and even more shocked that she completely left the show halfway through the set. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk at all. You paid to go to a concert, and this lady was interrupting that. She could have been playing on her phone, she could have been talking to a friend or tapping her foot, she could have been doing any number of things that would have been really distracting from the concert that you paid for. And I really want to emphasize that a lot. You paid to be there just like everybody else, so it's really unfair that somebody else is taking away from that experience. It's like when you go to a concert and someone's holding up a sign and it's blocking your view of the concert itself. I don't know about you, but I've been on the receiving end of that, and trust me, everybody behind that person with a sign absolutely hates them. Put your sign down and get out of the way. Or when someone climbs up on someone else's shoulders in the same setting. Like seriously, get down or find another place to stand where you can see the concert. You're blocking the view for everybody else. And hey, maybe that's just me, but I honestly find all of these scenarios incredibly annoying. And here's the thing, if she was knitting during a concert that was a lot louder and had some kind of like energy behind it, then that really wouldn't be a problem. You probably would not hear the knitting at all and the clicking of the pins or anything like that. It would be completely drowned out by the music. But it sounds like this is not one of those concerts. This kind of seems like a more intimate and quiet experience, so I'm willing to bet there's some kind of like, I don't know, mutual understanding amongst audience members that you need to shut up if you're gonna be there. So no, in my opinion, I don't think you did anything wrong. I don't think you're the jerk, and honestly, the fact that that lady reacted in the way that she did is proof enough to me that she knew she shouldn't have been doing that in the first place. And honestly, if I was in your shoes, I probably would have done the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for calling my fiance manipulative after she decided to come back in 6 months with an answer about whether or not she would get a prenup before we get married? Here's what happened. So my fiance and I have been together for 4 years and living together for 2. My fiance is a 28-year-old female and I'm a 31-year-old male. I'm a lawyer specializing in commercial real estate and wanted a prenup. I never thought about it until I was in a relationship, but I thought about it when we got serious and talked to her about it. I also watched some YouTube videos about men getting absolutely destroyed in divorce, and I got really scared. Now, when I talked to her about this, she was extremely angry and thought I was trying to take advantage of her. And I also did it because my parents wanted me to. They have some assets they want to pass along to me. It's not a huge amount, but it's essentially essentially a $1 million house, which is only a 3-bed, 2-bath, but it's in an expensive city. We argued for like 6 months and I agreed to drop the prenup conversation. The reason I did was because her salary is very high and she is very hardworking. She is also very well educated with a master's degree and her family is fairly well off as well. So I just don't think she would actually try to steal my money. She also is very prideful, and after talking to her, it seems she hates the idea of agreeing to sign a prenup more out of pride than anything else. I also accidentally told her my parents wanted it, which honestly really hurt their relationship. I got a lot of garbage from my dad, who had his money stolen by his first wife, and argued with him a lot about it. I had to shut them down and they are angry at me for not doing what they want. We are very close to the wedding, about 2 months away. We are going to a coast in Italy to do the wedding, and then suddenly my fiance hands me the prenup and tells me to get a lawyer who specializes in it to read through and sign it. The prenup had most of what I wanted, but also some of what she wanted, and it was fair to first glance. Now, I was surprised because she was very much against the prenup, and now she's okay with it. I mean, I argued with my parents about all of this, and it damaged our relationship. I then got angry and I called her manipulative, and she shot back that she wasn't okay with it initially, and it took months of therapy for her to realize why she wasn't okay with it. She said she felt like I should be okay with proposing to her with full trust that she wouldn't try to mess me over, but now that I've done that, she's okay giving me the prenup that I want. I yelled at her that she was manipulative and should have told me earlier, and she argued I wanted the prenup because I watched some stupid man on YouTube and listened to my parents over her, so she needed to see if I would take her side. I'm still angry, but technically she agreed to the prenup. We have enough time to review and sign it, but I'm just angry at the way she agreed to it. It's almost like she planned this just to test me. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, this entire situation is such a mess. First off, I do think the original poster is a complete jerk. Like seriously, this is not a good situation. First off, you actually went to your fiance and said, hey, I want a prenup. You know, the very thing that's a great way to start off your marriage. Nothing quite like getting married and saying, hey, I don't trust you. You want to have a prenup? And you only wanted that because you watched a YouTube video and you listened to your stupid parents. You let YouTube and your parents get in the way of your future marriage. Like seriously, I don't think you're ready for marriage, and your fiance deserves a lot better than you. I'm just gonna say that outright. So with all that in mind, with all the things you lined up and how aggressive you were about her getting a prenup with you, after 6 months she finally figured it out and said, okay, let's get a prenup. But then when she gives you the paperwork, you have the audacity to turn this around and be like, oh my gosh, you're so manipulative. How could you do this to me? Like, what are you talking about? This is literally what you wanted, right? Your paranoid self assumed that she was gonna try and mess you over at the end of the day. And now that she's actually doing what you want her to do, after 6 months of going to therapy to figure this out, you're now gonna get angry at her and be like, wow, I can't believe you would do this to me. Like, that is honestly the definition of insanity. She is literally doing exactly what you want, and it's still not good enough. So truly, with all things considered, I definitely think the original poster is a jerk. The way you went about this was so wrong, and it put your fiance in an awful position. Am I the jerk for telling my friend's girlfriend to stop trying to give me a reading with her tarot cards? Here's what happened. So my best friend has a girlfriend who is super weird, not just in the way she acts, but her whole personality as well. She believes in tarot cards, reading somebody's palms, crystal energy, and all that sort of crazy stuff. He started to bring her to group meetings, and she seemed like a relatively chill person. She was just chatting and smoking a little bit and stuff like that. Well, one time when I was at my best friend's house though, she started to ask me what my zodiac sign is, while also telling me what crystals match my energy. There was another time when one of our other friends was going through a breakup, and she just straight up said to him, I guess that's what happens when a Virgo dates an Aries. It's just my personal opinion that anyone who believes in this stuff probably has some screws loose up there, but I didn't say anything because that's his girlfriend. But she started to talk about this stuff more and more. I invited my best friend round to my house one day, and when he arrived, his girlfriend was there too. I wasn't rude or anything, but also wasn't super friendly to her because I didn't even invite her over. For a while, we were watching a movie, that is, until she pulled out a pack of those tarot cards. She started telling me that she wanted to give me a reading, so I said no thank you because I wasn't interested. But she started pushing, saying that she just wants to see what my reading comes out as. I think the fact that this was in my house and that I had not even invited her in the first place made me fly off the handle. I ended up saying to her in a loud voice, I have a reading for you. Stop with this garbage and get real. She asked if I was being serious, and my best friend thought I was joking, but I kept a straight face and I said that I wasn't, and that I was fed up up with all this psycho garbage. His girlfriend started crying and calling me names, and my best friend called me a jerk before leaving. A few other friends that know us all have literally agreed with me, saying that she tries to push that garbage on everybody, and they're all fed up with it as well. But some others say that I should have just let her do it, just to get it over and done with. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I honestly think everybody kinda sucks here. Let's go through the list real quick. For starters, I think the way you reacted to this situation was so out of line. Like, there's no reason to act like that and freak out just because you don't like the fact that someone's into tarot cards. Which, by the way, I'm kind of in the same boat as you, but if someone believes in that stuff and it makes them happy, then go for it. It's literally harmless and it doesn't hurt me. So your reaction to her being like, hey, can I give you a reading or something like that, or whatever you do with tarot cards, that was so inappropriate. That was really rude. You've got to remember, that's your best friend's girlfriend. He does love her, and I think to a certain extent, there should be some semblance of mutual respect between you and his girlfriend, even if you don't see eye to eye, or even if it's over something so mundane as this. But on the other hand, the girlfriend absolutely stepped over the line. She clearly went out of her way to try and get a reading, and she's apparently been doing this to literally everybody. This is not an isolated incident. She's been doing this to everybody, and it's getting annoying. And like, here's the thing, don't get me wrong. If you believe in zodiac signs and crystals and tarot cards and reading of the palms and stuff like that, then go for it. You're not hurting me, you're not hurting people around you. And even though I don't believe in that stuff, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to practice that on your own. But when you start pushing your beliefs or your practices on other people, almost demanding that they participate in the things that you're doing, that in my opinion is where you absolutely cross a line. And at that point, it's no longer something that you believe in, that you enjoy. And in that instance, it becomes super annoying. Like, I can understand why everybody would be getting frustrated at this lady and the fact that she's trying to get a reading on everybody around her. Like, that's really weird and that's really intrusive. Like, I don't know about you, but honestly, I wouldn't want to have to deal with that either. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would be apologizing to my best friend here. I'd be saying, hey, I'm really sorry about freaking out, but this stuff really bothers me. And then I would see if I could mend the relationship in some kind of way. But hopefully this can all blow over and everybody can just calm down, because the reaction from the original poster, as well as the pushy nature of this girlfriend, was overall completely out of line. An entitled Karen tries to steal my tires from my car, demanding that the auto shop put them on her car. And I am truly still blown away by this interaction, and I can't believe she actually tried this. Here's what happened. It's almost snow season here, and I booked an appointment to have my tires swapped today a month ago. The first snow is forecasted for Wednesday morning, so I knew it would be busy when I got there. But in reality, it was actually chaos. I checked my vehicle in after about 15 minutes in line, and was thinking that they were moving pretty quickly for it to be that short, given that they had so many vehicles. There were even some parked on the grass as well, and I had to park a quarter mile down the road and walk up to the store just to get here. For the next hour, I waited and got to hear the poor employees get screamed at over and over again by walk-in customers with no appointments who thought that they should get their tires immediately. But the last one honestly really took the cake. She'd been staring through the big windows at the shop the whole time she was in line. She was told that she had two choices: make an appointment for next Monday and come back, or leave her vehicle and they'd get it done in the order it came in after those with appointments. So she'd probably need to come back in about 8 hours. She started freaking out, screaming and cussing that she needed her tires now and didn't care who was in front of her because she was the first one in line right now. The employees patiently and kindly explained her options again and that they were booked solid for a week. She never even looked at him, but she just cut him off, yelling at him to give her the tires in the back of the little black SUV they just rolled out. I checked over my shoulder and sure enough, they had just finished up my Land Rover. The employee kept trying to tell her that my tires are mine and that they have plenty of tires. They only have 4 bays to work with. This entitled Karen then said the following: well, that SUV is off the lift, so just put mine on it and give me the tires that you put in the back of it. It's really simple. Are you an idiot or something? When she said that, the employee just started blinking. They tried to start saying something, but I decided to cut in. I said to this entitled Karen, hey, that's my vehicle. Those are my tires. I own them. Are you suggesting he steal my all-terrain tires that suck in the snow and have them put on your car? They won't even fit, lady. She looked at me and said, tires are tires. I don't care. I said to her, well then drive off with the ones you have and leave everyone in here alone. At this point, she started whining like a toddler. She said to me, but they're not snow tires. I need snow tires. And at this point, I just lost it. I was laughing so hard. If she really wanted snow tires, then the ones I had are not it. Like seriously, I had them taken off so that I could have my snow tires for the winter. I said to her, seriously, just make an appointment like the rest of us did, and you'll have the tires that fit. But once she started to yell again, I stopped her and I said, no, stop yelling at people and go book it online. I then stood up, and I don't think I'm exactly intimidating as a 5'6", 49-year-old woman, but honestly, it worked because she ended up leaving, and several others in line followed her out. And to be completely honest, I felt a little bit bad about it. I looked at the employee and I said, I'm sorry you lost business there, but is my vehicle done? And at this point, the employee is just busting up laughing, but not even trying to hide it. Apparently, everyone that left had been in earlier yelling at them too, so he didn't mind the fact that I put somebody in their place. I still don't understand what her thought process was in the whole thing. Well, someone said as I was leaving that this entitled Karen also left her car parked in the middle of the right-hand traffic lane on the busy highway, right in front of this place. But overall, a big shout out to that employee for never losing his cool at all. I can only imagine what his day was like already by the time she started in, based on just the time I was there. Because truly, that entitled Karen was completely out of line. And I can't imagine being that delusional that you seriously think that you're entitled to other people's property. Wow, that entitled Karen seriously did not even know what she was doing. She saw the tires in the back of this original poster's car, and she thought to herself, perfect, put those tires on my car. I want those. I want to get those and get out of here. Like, seriously, lady, you don't even know what you're trying to get. Like, those tires are not going to serve you well in the middle of the winter. I mean, they're not even snow tires, which basically means this lady was kind of in a roundabout way trying to steal. And also, why couldn't she just make an appointment and leave it at that? Like, I get it, you didn't plan ahead. You didn't do what you needed to do just to get stuff done. And trust me, we've all been there. But that is nobody else's fault except for yourself. Just be an adult, take responsibility, and move along. Nobody wants to hear about you complaining and screaming all because you're too dumb to figure things out. And also, for the original poster, the fact that they stood up and put this lady in her place was honestly astounding. She also had a ton of guts to do that in front of so many people. I know if I was in that situation, I probably would have been a little bit sheepish and at least stayed in the background to see how it all played out. But this original poster was not playing. And hopefully the next time this entitled Karen decides to act up in public, she thinks back to this situation and decides to act like an adult instead. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My adopted brother feels as though the family doesn't love him, and despite having so many talks with him and trying to encourage him to come back into our lives, me and the rest of my siblings have now discovered how awful my parents have been to my brother, and we're now at a loss and we seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my parents have 5 kids. My sister is 27 years old, my older brother is 26 years old, and then me, my twin, and our adopted brother are all 23. And for the sake of this story, my adopted brother's name will be John. John is not his real name. John was adopted when his biological parents, who were close friends with our parents, passed away when he was a few months old. So this has been a slowly building thing for years now, but really got called to everyone's attention in the past 5 years. I remember growing up with John normally as any sibling would, and all of our siblings would say the same thing. We played, we fought, we made up, we broke our parents' stuff, etc. But the past 5 years have been somewhat strange. At first, we thought it was just John being John, but now after I've spoken with him, we've discovered it was more than what we thought. First off, John left the day he turned 18, which was a surprise because he had good grades and everyone assumed he would go to college like the rest of us. He graduated 1 semester early and left the house on his 18th birthday, which was a shock to everybody. He earned money doing chore work for our dad and uncles and had bought his own car and apparently saved up enough to get an apartment. It was weird and my parents were sad, but more than that, they were proud and happy for him. My dad offered John money to help him start out his life on his own, but John refused and said that he would be fine. My parents were insanely proud of John. They're not typically the type of people to brag about their kids, but they were telling everyone how independent and responsible and mature and fearless John was. Now, it's important to know that us siblings were always fairly close. I cried the first night John was gone, and I wanted my dad to figure out a way to make him come back because I was scared he would pass away or something like that. So when the communication suddenly was almost nothing, it was incredibly weird and we really missed him. But our parents said he was busy working and taking care of himself, and that when he'd settled down and figured things out, he would be back to his normal self. Unfortunately, it never really happened though, and overall, he just stopped talking to them. He would talk to us about birthdays and holidays, but even then, it was strange. He always tried to meet up with siblings for dinner or drinks on birthdays birthdays. He would always visit our parents very quickly on their birthdays and Mother's Days or Father's Days, and on Christmas and Thanksgiving. I mean, he was in and out incredibly quickly. For example, our older brother was the only one there for our mom's most recent birthday, and he said that John was very clinical, and it felt more like a soldier who was paying respect to a commanding officer than anyone visiting their parents. One thing about this that stood out was that John talked to our mom and dad and brother about a lot going on in his life. Apparently, he's got a girlfriend and just got a dog and has a great new job in construction. No one knew any of this, and Dad cracked a joke about how they were terrible parents because how could they not know anything that was going on in one of their kids' lives? After John left, our mom looked sad, and when our older brother asked her what was wrong, she said that it felt like John didn't want to be around her, while also saying that she missed him, all before refusing to say anything more about it. So our older brother started a group chat with everyone but John to ask about if any of us had noticed anything wrong with him. We'd all talked about how distant he'd been over the years, but we really never had a talk like this. At the end of it, we all arranged to meet up with John and try and talk to him to make sure everything was okay. Now, it took some effort to get him to open up, but he finally did, and what he said has really rocked our family. He said that I'm not their real son. We all immediately tried to reassure him that mom and dad love him, and that we do as well, but he had all these stories about how mom and dad treated him differently. There were lots of examples. Things like our older brother would hug or kiss mom on the cheek, but she would push John off if he tried to do the same. Dad would happily talk sports with anyone, but would be short with John if anything came up. Our grandparents were never excited to see him. Aunts and uncles were not interested in him or his hobbies, or even what was going on at school. Another incident is when Dad asked each boy to go on a hunting trip and never asked John until they were leaving, and when he finally did ask, you could tell Dad was annoyed. And my brothers did confirm this one, because they thought it was weird with how Dad was acting. When John said that he was fine with not going, they said that Dad looked happy about that. John would ask for help with schoolwork, but Mom and Dad would say that they were tired, or just tell him to ask teachers, but would instead stay up with the rest of us anytime we wanted. I think you get the idea. There was a lot of stuff, and enough of us witnessed it that we didn't think he was misremembering things or making them up. John wasn't bitter or angry about this. He said he understood that they wouldn't be able to love him the same way they loved us, and that it would be inhuman of him to ask that of them, which honestly broke my heart. He said he refused the money from Dad because he would have felt badly about him using it on himself instead of Dad using it on his real children, as John put it. He said he will always love them and respect them and be grateful for their sacrifices for raising him, but also that it was too painful to be around them for too long because he knew they couldn't be what he wanted and that he couldn't be what they wanted. Our oldest sister was impassioned by this and told my parents all about it, and honestly, it was a nightmare. My mom was crying, my dad was punching a wall. They were both ashamed and hurt and insisted that they love him just as much as they do the rest of us. Now that John knows that our parents know, he's upset and is apprehensive about coming around, which is completely understandable. We love our brother and our parents love him too, and we all miss him so much, and it's honestly left us really feeling down, and we're not sure how to fix this. Before we go any further, the original poster has an update they'd like to share. Here's what they had to say. Well, in terms of an update, the first people I really wanted to talk to were my parents. I didn't share everything John shared with us in the thread I made, but there were so many things they'd done that were just downright cruel. This conversation was fairly quiet and extremely emotional, and I only wrote adopted brother in my post because I wanted to communicate the dynamic with people reading this, but in my heart he is just my brother. So when I detailed the things John remembered, I began to cry, and it hurt even more because I almost wanted my parents to deny it. I wanted them to be sure that they would never do anything so mean, and that maybe John was remembering things wrong, but they never denied anything though. When specific instances arose, you could see them turn their heads or their eyes away in shame. They'd get up and pace or put their heads down. They never denied a single thing. When I asked them, most time they'd say that they didn't realize they were doing something or that they were just too careless. They kept saying that there was no excuse for any of it. I then asked my dad specifically about the fishing trip that he didn't invite John on. He said that he asked the other boys, but it just never crossed his mind to go out of his way and ask John. I asked them both why they didn't help him with his homework or make sure that their 18-year-old leaving had a solid plan and would be safe, and I never got a response to that either. I asked my mom about why she pushed John off of her when he tried to be affectionate towards her, and her response is one that honestly really leaves me at a loss. She was very honest and said that in her mind, mind, she could not ignore the fact that he was a mature male who was not biologically related. She said it felt no different having my other brothers hug and kiss her as babies as it would today, but that around the time that John went through puberty, she couldn't see him as one of her babies anymore. She said her instinct then became to protect her daughters just in case. She said it was hard and she wasn't happy about it, but she'd rather have protected us and gone too far to John's detriment instead of being lackadaisical to our detriment. She said when John left, she felt relieved. After talking with them, I spoke with my older sister, who was still very angry, which is the same way our other siblings felt as well. All of us siblings love him and want him back in our lives like before. We don't want to lose him. I reached out to John and it was a bittersweet conversation to have. We were both happy to be talking to each other. We still had our inside jokes and things like that, and we can hang out like nothing ever happened. But when we spoke about reestablishing our old relationship, he said that it would be difficult. He said he would love to be my brother, but that he feels gross around us girls because of mom, and that he feels less than when he's around our brothers. He said that loneliness sucks, but that it's better than feeling like people would rather not have you around. He said he felt like a family friend that everyone liked, but who stuck around way too long. We both ended up crying, and it was very ugly. But in the end, we at least decided that we would try to be siblings. Wow, the parents in this story suck. Like seriously, 100% suck. They treated this kid like garbage all because it wasn't theirs. Like they very obviously and blatantly did that, and you can tell how guilty they were simply because they didn't deny any of the things that they did. The dad never considered him one of his sons, and the mom was almost just as bad, if not worse. She seriously thought that her adopted son would somehow eventually do sketchy things to her daughter. And I think you catch my drift of what I'm trying to say. And that is honestly so disgusting. How on earth could you treat your adopted son like that and label him as something that he hasn't done and wouldn't do? Like seriously, she especially should be ashamed of herself. That is so disgusting, it really just blows my mind. I can't imagine calling yourself somebody's mother while also being like, yes, but stay at an arm's length. Also, don't hug me or touch my daughters. Like seriously, you're trying to fix a non-problem. It would be different if John exhibited some kind of like creepy behavior towards his sisters. And by the way, those are his sisters, even though he's adopted. This awful mother just assumed, oh man, he could do that one day, so I'm just gonna push him away and label him as this. Like seriously, what a terrible mother. And in my opinion, those tears that she shed are absolutely crocodile tears. That also doesn't excuse the way the father acted too, by the way. He intentionally left his son out and acted like it was a burden just to be around him and help him with his homework or take him on any kind of like trip with his other brothers. Like I cannot imagine growing up in that kind of environment and seeing firsthand that yeah, my parents don't like me. They hate me because I'm not directly their son. And that seriously had to be absolutely heartbreaking. So with all that in mind, I don't blame John for moving out and moving on with his life. I mean seriously, with all the things that this guy went through, I don't blame him for saying, you know what, I don't need these people. I don't need to be treated this way, and I'm done being the black sheep of the family. Like this guy didn't sign up for his parents to pass away. He didn't ask for this. So the fact that he spent 18 years growing up and being treated like garbage would probably be enough to make anybody move out and never look back. And honestly, I can seriously say if I was in that situation, I probably would have done the exact same thing. Because John put it best, and I seriously resonate with what he said. He said that loneliness sucks, but it's better than feeling like people would rather not have you around. And I truly agree with that sentiment, and hopefully things can get better for John in his life. An entitled customer screams at me when my register locks up right as I'm about to check out her groceries. And I've honestly never been more frustrated and angry at somebody else's entitlement in my life. Here's what happened. So in my mid-20s, I worked for a grocery store, and it was hands down the worst experience of my life. And I still have traumatic memories about it. On this particular day, we were slammed. We had all our cash registers open and lines with at least 6 people deep in each lane. When there is over $1,000 in the till, the register would lock up until a manager collected some money to drop off into the safe. And it was just my luck that this happened to me in the middle of this rush. And the lady I was supposed to help next was an absolute nightmare. I told her the situation and that I would get to her in just a minute, but I needed to pull some money from the drawer. Well, as you can imagine, she did not like this in the slightest and proceeded to get incredibly angry about it. I had my back to her so I could count the money I was pulling, and this angered her even more. She started yelling about this being the worst customer service she's ever had, and how she worked in the service industry and had never been treated this poorly. And honestly, I don't doubt that she worked in the service industry. I mean, her lack of empathy certainly fits the bill. Now, due to being mute as a child, I freeze up when I'm yelled at, and my hands start shaking as I tried to focus on counting the money. The lady kept yelling at me, making me lose my train of thought, and I had to keep counting the money. I kept trying to tell her it would only be a moment, but this simply would not make her happy. While this lady was having her tantrum, the hero of the story, the older woman behind her in line, started to verbally lay this lady out. She said to her, "You are acting like an immature child. Grow up, lady." This then got more people in line starting to defend me as well, while also yelling at her in the process. I was still shaking, but it felt nice to at least have someone on my side. I was able to pull the money and have it dropped in the safe, which also took a while before the computer recognized that, and eventually I checked her items out. The only thing I chose to say to her was the total amount she owed, and I refused to acknowledge her further or even say goodbye as I would with other customers that might come through my lane. And for my timid yet friendly autistic self, that was the biggest slight I could do in that moment. Honestly, when I worked customer service of any kind, I could not stand when people did that to me. They would get in line and then throw a hissy fit when they didn't get their way, and that honestly would just drive me nuts. So I completely understand where the original poster's coming from. Like seriously, this entitled Karen absolutely was out of line. If she is really in that much of a rush, then get in a different line. Go somewhere else, find a different spot to get this taken care of. But screaming at the employee who has no control over the cash register and is literally only working there hourly is not going to solve anybody's problems. And personally, I think the system locking up at $1,000 is smart. I mean, why on earth would you want to have a lot of money in the cash registers at the front of the store? Someone could easily rob them and take away that money and possibly hurt somebody. Like, how could this entitled Karen not understand that? And also, in today's day and age, is there seriously no other way to try and entertain yourself while this gets taken care of? Like seriously, if I was in that situation and the cashier said to me, "Hey, I've got to clear out some money for my cash register. This is just going to take a minute," I would then just stand there and get on my phone and that would be it. I would have literally no issue standing there and just waiting. And sure, maybe the entitled Karen had somewhere she desperately needed to be. But if that's the case, then she probably shouldn't have gone shopping. I mean, let's look at the facts here. She clearly did not schedule things correctly, and that is nobody's fault except for her own. And for her to act like this is the worst situation of her life and this is horrible customer service, that is just so unnecessary, and it's nice to see that the people behind her really did come to the cashier's defense. So I'm really sorry that you had to go through this, and hopefully you never have to deal with anything like that ever again. My entitled, stuck-up manager demands that I drop everything that I'm doing just to help out with food that we're delivering to a table. And after dealing with this awful lady for so long, I decided to maliciously comply and get back at this awful manager in the best way possible. Here's what happened. So I want to start off by saying that yes, I know I should have been fired for this, and I do not recommend doing this in any service industry job. This happened several years ago while I was working as a waitress at a chain restaurant. There was this insane manager whom I had to work with on several occasions. She was young and thought she knew everything. She was quite trashy and was sleeping with one of the higher-ups who was married, whose wife also worked at the same restaurant. But that's a different story for another day. This manager, let's call her Mindy, that's not her real name, was always on my butt about everything. I was one of the few shift leads who knew what they were doing, knew how to make the restaurant money, and had many customers write great reviews and say wonderful things about me. I knew how to do my job, and I knew how to do it well. Mindy always singled me out for things when things weren't even my fault, and I would always just take it because it wasn't worth my energy fighting about it. She was the only person in the whole restaurant that I did not get along with, and in contrast, I had a great rapport with the bartenders, servers, cooks, back-of-house staff, and other managers. One day, I came in to start my shift, but was quickly pulled into the manager's office by a different manager. He wanted to bring it to my attention that Mindy had stated on my past shift that I was on my phone and not working hard, and this was not true. I never carried my phone on me because it was a distraction, and I didn't have any room in my aprons. Also, my jeans don't have any pockets. And even with all that in mind, honestly, I just didn't want to have it on me. I mentioned this to the manager, and he gave me the benefit of the doubt, but said he was going to keep an eye on me, as cell phone use has been a major problem with several of the servers and bartenders in the past few months. One shift a few days after that was very busy. I had a full section that was sat with a party of 12 who all ordered beverages from the bar with water. I grab a tray, fill up the water, and hand the glassware to the service bar in the kitchen area. Once all the drinks were on the tray, I slowly started to lift it to get it situated, as it was heavy. Well, Mindy decided that this was the best time to yell at me and tell me that she needed me to run the food that was up at the expo line, which by the way is where she was standing and expediting the food. I took a second to look over to the other two servers who were leaning against the wall, you know, the same ones who were much closer to her, who were also on their phones doing nothing. I said to her, well, I'm a little busy, can somebody else help? Well, when I said that, she snapped back at me and said to me, I told you to do it, so you need to do it right now. At that moment, I honestly didn't even care anymore. So I looked her dead in the eyes, I smiled, and I said to her, okay, and I literally dropped the tray of drinks I was holding on the ground. I walked over the broken glass, crunching the cups under my feet, grabbed the plates of food, and asked her where they were going while keeping the smile on my face. The look of shock on her face, the phone-dwelling servers' faces, and the cooks' faces were quite priceless. Once I delivered the food, I went to my party of 12 and apologized to them and told them I dropped the tray of their drinks and I would be right back with a new one, still with that same smile on my face. Once my shift was over, Mindy pulled me into the office and explained that what I did today was not okay, and she was going to write me up for it. So I had to sign a document stating I understood why I was being written up, and I refused to sign it before speaking with other management. There was much more discussion in this conversation, but I can honestly narrow it all down. She said I would be fired if I didn't sign the write-up document at that exact moment. But you know what? I still refused and said I would like to speak with the general manager about it tomorrow morning on my next shift. The next morning, I explained to the general manager what had happened and stated that I was working while others were on their phones, but Mindy singled me out specifically. I also asked him to check the cameras to see the incident taking place, and might I say, it was so satisfying to physically see myself drop everything. After lots of discussion, the general manager said there's no problem here, ripped up the write-up, and told me to continue being the hard worker that I am, and I never had to work with Mindy ever again. Wow, the original poster seriously made a gamble on that one. They took the phrase drop everything that you're doing and help me out way too seriously. Like they dropped a full tray full of drinks all over the floor. I can only imagine what kind of mess that made and how long that must have taken just to clean it up. And also, I honestly can't stand people like Mindy, managers who are just singling people out all because they want to, while also making up lies about stuff that they're doing, even though they're not doing that in the first place. Like it's very clear that Mindy had it out for the original poster, and she was just trying to get her fired, while also basically ignoring all the other servers who are blatantly on their phone doing absolutely nothing. So either way, good for you for getting back at this lady and basically ensuring that you will never have to deal with her ever again. And I completely agree with what the original poster said. They should have been fired for this. This is seriously so insane. But at the end of the day, you got away with it, and this Mindy lady never bothered you ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My job demands that I don't give out any Christmas presents to any of the teenagers that we were helping, so I decided to maliciously comply and expose the manager who tried to make that awful decision. And I've never felt more satisfied to eventually see her get fired. Here's what happened. Okay, so this situation is a few years old now, and the place I used to work at has closed down, so I feel comfortable enough to try and share it. I used to work at a place where teenagers lived full-time when they had behavior difficulties, usually related to substance use if you know what I mean, as well as truancy. They lived there full-time, and the program was staffed a full 24 hours a day. They required supervision at all times except for in the bathroom and at night. Supervision was also reduced down to 15-minute checks all night long. I worked third shift at this job, and I worked there for almost 5 years at the time of this incident. Now, here's the thing. I did not love my management, but I really did love my kids. And for the entire 5.5 years I worked there, during the Christmas holidays, the third shift staff would do the 7 nights of Christmas, wherein we would put little presents outside their doors on the week leading up to Christmas. They were pretty generic things like body washes, lotions, or soft fuzzy blankets, stuff along those lines, but it made them feel a little better about being stuck in an institution during the holidays. This place also had statuses that could be placed upon people, and for ease of understanding, I'll call those statuses bad, good, and perfect. If someone was on the perfect status, they would have a later bedtime. Certain unwanted behaviors could knock them down from the perfect status to a good one, or from a good one all the way down to a bad one. This place insisted up, down, and sideways that the bad status was not a punishment, that the kids' behaviors had earned the bad status, and as soon as they showed remorse and that they'd learned from their mistake, they could earn back good status. This will be important later on. Well, during the year 2018, 14, we got a new manager. We'll call them Sammy. Sammy is not their real name. A few days before the Christmas holiday, Sammy calls me up when I get to work and says to me, kids who earn bad status don't get their 7 days of Christmas present until they earn a different status outside of bad. And when Sammy said that, I super disagreed. She insisted it was because we're rewarding bad behavior. I insisted though that bad status wasn't a punishment and that withholding presents was a punishment. So I thought to myself, which is it, Sammy? Which one is more important here? She got short with me and ended up hanging up on me. So I wrote out my end of night logs by throwing her under the bus, and I stated openly on government legal emails that Miss Sammy had stated that the ladies who had earned bad status were not allowed to get the 7 days of Christmas presents that their peers were getting, and as this was a punishment, we needed to change the legislation on the rule set. Since bad status says on its paperwork that it's not a punishment, it's a consequence earned by behaviors, we should be changing it to say that these behaviors are bad and they earned a punishment status. Well, as a result, I got several emails in quick succession that I should definitely give them the presents. And then as a result, I got written up. Now fast forward and Sammy did get fired, even though it wasn't from this incident, but from several others later down the line. Eventually, I ended up quitting as well. And now I obsessively crawl over our employment page at my current job just to make sure that she doesn't work here either. Wow, talk about the Grinch who stole Christmas. Sammy sounds like an absolutely horrible person. Here you are working at a facility to try and help troubled teenagers. You're doing something good every year by giving out presents and helping these kids move along with their lives, and then Sammy comes in and says no more presents for bad status kids. Like seriously, Sammy, you're the one with the problem, and I can definitely see why you got fired. So good for the original poster for exposing this piece of garbage, because if it was up to Sammy, none of those kids would have gotten a present, and that truly would have ruined somebody's Christmas. Am I the jerk for asking my boyfriend's family to stop inviting me over for dinner? Here's what happened. So my boyfriend's family recently invited me for dinner to celebrate my birthday. They are notorious for eating exactly at 5 o'clock p.m., but since I work in the office occasionally, and it's a 1-hour commute, they will sometimes offer to push dinner so we can eat after I finish commuting back to town. The last 3 times they have invited me to dinner, however, I have arrived to find everyone already eating, and most recently, everyone was clearing their plate by the time I walk through the door. For some context, my train arrives at my hometown at about 6:13 in the evening, and I will be through their door by 6:20 p.m. If I go over after working from home, I'll be there usually at about 5:15 p.m. at the latest. I come from a family where no one touches their food without everyone at the table and ready to eat, let alone a guest who's still coming over. Since I was raised this way, I find what my boyfriend's family is doing completely disrespectful, and it hurts my feelings that they offer to push dinner and then eat without me anyways, not to mention the uncomfortableness of also having to eat alone at the table. I've brought this up to my boyfriend, and he says it's not a big deal, and that members of his family need to eat at a certain time because of blood sugar issues. Also, just to note, my boyfriend has stopped eating before I get there since I told him that it bothers me, but his family has not. Recently, when they offered to have me for dinner for my birthday after an office day, I politely suggested to my boyfriend that they eat without me and I will come after I get home for cake or something like that. My boyfriend said he wouldn't be suggesting that to his parents because it's rude and ungrateful, and that I can deal with everyone eating before me for one day. My stance is pretty firm that if you invite someone for dinner, you shouldn't eat without them, so I've asked him going forward to stop inviting me to family dinners. I don't feel like I'm overreacting or over-asking, but my boyfriend is pretty floored that I would suggest that. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk in this situation, but also you do know you can say no to coming over for dinner, right? You could just say something like, oh, thank you for the invite, but I've had a busy day and I won't be available to eat dinner with the family. You could also explain to them that your work schedule and commuting back and forth is really hard on you, so you're only available for dinners on the weekends. Like that literally could solve all of your problems. I think making like a blanket statement of like, okay, just don't invite me for any dinners ever. Like that seems like an overreaction in my opinion, and I can understand kind of where your boyfriend's coming from. So I don't think you're the jerk in this situation, but also this situation is kind of weird because you're an adult and you absolutely can say no if you don't want to show up. Would I be the jerk if I hire a nanny to help with childcare around the house after my wife got a new job, thus preventing her from being around the house to help out? Here's what happened. My wife and I have been married for 12 years and we have 3 kids. We both work full-time, with me being the primary breadwinner and earning around 3 times what she does. About 4 months ago, she was offered a promotion at her job. It wasn't a big step up in pay, but would be a lot more responsibility responsibility, as well as being on call 3 to 4 nights a week. When she told me about it, she was really excited and acting like it was a huge opportunity to advance her career, and I was happy for her. But I told her I had some concerns about how often she would be out of the house in the evenings, or how we would have to alter our schedules and routines due to her being on call. She assured me that being on call wasn't an issue and reiterated that she would be compensated for that time even if she wasn't actually called in. I told her that ultimately it was her decision, but I feel like we live comfortably already and the little extra money wouldn't be worth the hassle it would cause in our lives. She ended up taking the job, and wouldn't you know it, she ended up being called in about 50% of the time. This resulted in us having to find alternate rides for our kids to do activities, canceling plans, her leaving in the middle of dinner or family time, etc. I also had to pick up a lot of slack in terms of household duties and childcare. We have never fought as much as we have been since she took this promotion, but she's convinced it's a stepping stone to something better. Now, I floated the idea of hiring a nanny for the nights that she's on call so that I have help in the inevitable situation where she gets called in again. Simply having another person to watch the kids if I need to take one of them to an activity or a play date, or to be able to make dinner easier or get other chores done. But she shot the idea down immediately and told me that me picking up her slack is not that big of a deal and I should be able to handle it. After a 3-week stretch of her being called in 3 nights a week, I told her that I was going to start looking into nannies with or without her agreement. I told her the only way I would reconsider is if she tries to get her old job back or look for a different one because her promotion is not working for me or the kids. Now, when I said this, she did not take this well. She accused me of being a lazy person and tried to buy my way out of being a father. She also said that the cost of a nanny would offset any extra money her promotion is bringing in. When I told her it would actually cost more than that, she got incredibly upset. She has no time frame for how long she will be in this position at work, and apparently has no care for my feelings on this. I'm tempted to just hire a nanny anyways, because this is not sustainable for me. I think this promotion has blinded her on how negatively it has impacted the rest of our family, and I refuse to just suck it up any longer. Now, I do want to continue by clarifying a few things. My wife did not do 100% of the childcare or all of the chores before her promotion. Before her promotion, we would divide and conquer and split childcare and chores as evenly as possible. Both of us were 100% comfortable with how we had these things divided between us. It's not like I was coming home and doing absolutely nothing. We split responsibilities equally between the two of us. But now those responsibilities have fallen on my shoulders, and I'm honestly starting to get overwhelmed and I don't know what to do. Yeah, I can kind of see where you're coming from here. It seems like the original poster was being involved already as a father, and they weren't being lazy or standoffish when it comes to being involved with their children. So I completely understand where they're coming from, because right now, 3 days out of the week, the original poster is basically being a solo parent, and that can really be frustrating and probably really hard to deal with. On the other side of this, your wife is advancing her career. Like, this really is a good thing for both of you. Even if the money isn't making a dent in your wallet or anything like that, and even though it's going to be a small amount compared to what you make, this is still a really good thing for your wife, and she clearly really enjoys it. So it kind of makes me wonder if there is any kind of situation where this might be able to work out. I will say though, I don't really like the way you're talking about your wife and her new job. Like, it really doesn't seem like you're being supportive of the job that she's doing. So no, I don't personally think you're the jerk. I think maybe you need to find some kind of middle ground with your wife, because this promotion is clearly very important to her, and I think it would be a good idea to step in and support your wife. Am I the jerk for kicking out my sister's friend from my house after she gave my child baby melatonin? Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my husband and I took in one of my little sister's friends, and we're gonna call her Sam. Sam is not her real name. She's 18 years old, and Sam has been with us for almost a full year, and we've been taking care of her the entire time. We also have 2 small children who live in our house as well. We have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. We occasionally ask Sam to watch the kids for us when we have errands to run or when we have a date night or something like that. Well, she graduated high school in May and did not have a job over the summer, nor paid any sort of bills. So we didn't think we were asking anything huge considering we pay everything. We're paying for her cell phone, her shoes, clothing, anything that she needs. We just finally trusted Sam enough to watch the kids overnight so we could go out of town to celebrate our anniversary. Everything went fine and we returned home with no issues. Well, at least that's what we thought. Today, I had some errands to run while my husband went to work, so I asked Sam to watch the kids for about 2 hours last evening. Sam is in no way a morning person, person, and it's very apparent. For reference, this is at 7:12 in the morning, and the kids had just gotten up at 6:30. This morning when she got up to watch the kids, she instantly fell back asleep on the couch. My husband and I had to wake her up before we left. We have a car in the shop currently, so I was dropping him off and then doing my errands. I had to use the restroom after dropping him off, so I stopped back home to find my house door unlocked and the house alarm not even turned on. Sam was in the room with the kids sleeping, and this was at 7:50 in the morning. She had no idea I ever entered the house, and I was angry but got back into my car to do what I needed to do. While I was driving, I had a nagging feeling to check the living room camera from after the time we left, and what I could see on the camera absolutely horrified me as a mom. Not even 10 minutes after we left, Sam goes to the spot we keep the children's melatonin and proceeds to plop one into my child's mouth. I saw red and sent the video to my husband to confirm what I saw, and he agreed. I then also sent it to my mom to triple check it. So I fly home and I go inside to confront her. She lies and lies to me until she tells me that she actually did do it. I told her that she needed to be out of my house today by 1 o'clock, and she had a total meltdown. She gave me every reason in the book as to why she did it and freaked out that she has nowhere to go. I told a few people because I'm so upset and I'm crying. I had some people who agreed with me, but some saying I shouldn't kick her out since there's nowhere else that she could go. It's honestly making me feel horrible. So am I the jerk for kicking her out of my house? What should I do? Okay, so first off, this is really a tough situation. On one hand, it does seem like there's some sketchy things going on. Like from the outside looking in, it does kind of seem like Sam did this in a way that was really not okay, so I can understand why the original poster would be so upset. But I'm sure Sam would probably say that she thought she was doing the right thing because that melatonin was specifically for the child. Like, I'm willing to bet that she didn't do this in a malicious way or in any kind of way that would be inappropriate. Maybe she just didn't know the right timing to give it to the child or something like that. And sure, I totally understand that she was super tired and this happened early in the morning. I understand that's part of the reason why this does look so sketchy. It almost looks purposeful in a way, but I'm really not convinced that suddenly Sam is deciding, oh yeah, this is what we're gonna do so I can get some sleep. Like, she's been living with the original poster for a while. I don't think out of nowhere she would do this without some kind of reasoning behind it. So maybe Sam thought she was doing the right thing here. And based on the evidence that we have in front of us, I'm not totally convinced that Sam did this in a malicious way. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.